Hello, hello. How is everybody doing? Is it Monday night or is it Tuesday night? All the days run together. We're in the holiday season. Looking forward to talking with my buddy here, Carlos, from Because I'm Carlos YouTube channel. First off, let me just say, Ryan, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Alex, global sports card investor. Stephen Ryan. Oh, I've got coffee. Alex is commenting. Of course, I've got coffee, man. I know. Sadly, it's 9 p.m. Eastern, and I'm drinking coffee to just kind of get through the next few hours. Because usually, what happens is I do the live stream, and then I'm kind of amped up after the live stream, and then I'm in bed at like 12:01. So, yeah. All right, let's go ahead and bring Carlos out here. What's going on, man?
Good, man. How are you? I saw Global Sports Card Investor. I'm noting what you're talking about. They're short and concise.
Yeah. Yeah, we're actually going to try to break one of Carlos's records, 7 hours or something on a live stream.
I think you'd have to go over 7 to break my
What
record.
I'd have to do is just keep it running after I've already left. Just kind of keep it going in the background.
Well, I joke with somebody who once who once came super late into a very long live stream, and he's like, "All right, I'm here, so start again from the beginning." And I go, "Well, what I could do is I'll stop it, put the video in, hit play, and we'll just all leave, and you could just watch the replay on the live stream. It'll be great."
I like that. I like that. I wonder if at some point YouTube is going to be like, "Hey, we're going to start getting picky with our bandwidth." Where it's like we're going to only take certain bits. Because right now it just kind of feels like they'll just just upload videos. Do you think one day they'll be like, this is very off topic, by the way, just popped in my head. Do you think one day they'll be like, you know what, we don't really want all the stuff. We're going to chop it down.
Well, I think it would be if they wanted to go that route, it'd be a little late in the game. And the other thing is they started making pitches to try to make live streams more viable. They've been trying to make it better so that more people try to encourage people to live stream. That's what happened when, like in the gaming space, they brought over after he got banned from Twitch, they brought over Doctor Disrespect, who got a ton of views on Twitch and became a big star over there. But then they rolled out the red carpet when it was time for him to come over here, and it was like, all right. So it's like if you want to discourage live streams, that sure ain't the way you're going to do it by making it easier.
I guess if you're the size of Google, it's just kind of like we want the attention, or we want all the content. So that makes sense.
Yeah. The big YouTubers will make them enough money. Probably what they may do is they may scale back the ads for the ones that don't draw enough to make it so you can stay on as long as you want, but you're doing it for free.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right, Carlos. So it's your first time on this channel. I know we have a lot of crossover on our channel, so there are people that watch yours, watch mine. But for new people, kind of just tuning in, how did you get into collecting? Let's just kind of start there. You can start with your life story.
Okay.
I'll just sit back.
Nice, nice.
No, but just kind of your collecting story. How did you get into this game?
So I'll give you the short version. The short version is I started collecting in 1990, which is almost the perfect cutoff time between the tail end of the last real big major boom, and then as I rolled into kind of the quieter time a little bit, but basically I went nonstop. And the only time that really had a bit of a slowdown was right when I was in university because beer money takes precedence. Very important. We got to prioritize. But what that meant is instead of buying a bunch of cards, it just meant I would scan eBay every other day or a couple times a week and then grab a card, 1 or 2 cards a month. So it meant even during that time, I was still grabbing, and basically I'd get them shipped home. And then they would have a stack of mail for me at the end, and my parents would just confirm for me that it got there, and it'd be like, okay, perfect. I'll leave the feedback and all that. And then when I went home, I would just go and grab it, and I'd have a bunch of envelopes open up. So I was always collecting all the way through. So I've watched the whole thing, the whole 90s, all the way, the tail end of that, the drop off, the pickup, and then all the way through the 2000s, the launch of eBay changing the game for everybody, money orders, doing it that way, and then eventually getting to PayPal and now doing what we're doing now. And then about 2018, I decided to start making content because I saw a lot of the content that was out there and I disagreed with almost all of it. And I was like, forget it. I'm going to do this myself.
No, that's awesome. So you have a huge Mike Modano collection. Is that how you say his name?
Modano. Yeah.
Modano, tomato. Okay. Yeah. When did that start? Because that's obviously a very focused, that's kind of, well, from what I know, that's the one athlete you collect the most. Is that right? Or is there others? Okay.
Yeah. So the best way I'd put it, and I that's why I enjoyed your video on the focus thing. And I like listening to folks who are trying to figure out what they want to do. I respect it. Luckily for me, I figured out most of what I wanted to do pretty early. So it's one of those things like, so you go 1990 nonstop. Now that's 31 years. I don't like that. It makes me feel older than I feel most days. But that means though that I started collecting Medano in 95. So I've been collecting Medano for 26 years. So a lot of the guys that are starting up in the game now have been alive less time than I've been collecting Medano. But that's been the consistent thread. And then the other one that's been pretty consistent since about the early mid 90s has been vintage. So I've been collecting some vintage and Medano consistently this whole time. And then the other stuff I kind of figured out as I went along. Kept making little adjustments. I was always open to it. If something really didn't interest me, I'd drop it. I always tried to build these other secondary player collections, but not many of them stuck. I've got a rotation of some secondary guys that I like having now that I feel like it's a good balance with the younger guys and then the guy that I've been collecting the whole time. But I collected 15 years of Medano's career and 10 years past his retirement. His number's retired. He's in the Hall of Fame. I collected him all the way through from his 5th year all the way through the Hall of Fame and the rest of it.
Wow. Okay. So for vintage, are you collecting mostly vintage hockey? I know you're also a baseball card collector. Are you also into vintage baseball cards?
Vintage baseball is where I cut my teeth. The beginning of my collection was baseball. It's still my favorite sport. I don't even watch much hockey now anymore, so it's hard for me to stay in touch with the modern game a little bit. But I do enjoy the cards. I do enjoy collecting still. So we end up talking a lot about it because in Canada, we're always going to talk hockey for sure. But when it comes to collecting, vintage baseball is my favorite. And then I do enjoy some vintage hockey, but I'm very picky about which sets I like. I've been working on some varied projects. I finish a project and then I go with the next one.
How far back does it go? Because you've got baseball goes back, but 48 leaf or 50s baseball cards is the very popular stuff. But where does it for hockey? How far back does that go? I don't know enough about the NHL.
Are you talking about the actual cards themselves?
Yeah, like how far back do hockey cards go back?
They go back to tobacco. They're tobacco hockey cards.
Same thing, tobacco.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not quite as far. Baseball obviously goes back further than all the rest of them, but hockey does have tobacco sets. They're pretty, and some of them still hold pretty good value. They're definitely up there, especially if you can get nice ones in nice condition. George Vezina, who the award is named after, has a hockey card in the tobacco era. There's probably multiple, to be honest, but they go back to the tobacco era for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, Criminal Mind. Why does this hobby have so many geeks in it? Carlos being the biggest one of all.
It's a requirement.
Yeah, you have to be a little geeky to be here, Criminal Mind.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Criminal Mind from the streams before. That's a term of endearment from him. But here's the thing. It's not much of an insult. I'm sorry. If you're here, Criminal Mind, you're a geek.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be the one to break this to you. You're watching a sports card live stream. You're a geek, bro.
Of all the forms of entertainment.
Yeah, there's a football game on. Get on it.
Michael Ham, what's going on, man? Good to see you. I assume this is Medano one of the greatest?
Medano is the leading goal scorer and the leading point guy. So he's got both records right now. I think Patrick Kane will pass him in one or both in the next couple of years, but he currently holds both those records.
Hockey 99. Carlos should write a book dissecting all the crazy theories and hobby thoughts we have heard over the last few years. Just tear it all to shreds. Yeah, I like watching Carlos because you always get kind of the you'll get multiple sides to this, to like multiple angles usually. And that's what I like. There's a lot of just kind of like the same takes over and over that you kind of hear when you watch a lot of the podcasts and stuff. And that's why I like watching your channel quite a bit, is because I'll hear something different. I'll hear something new that I'm kind of like, okay, I can chew on that a little bit.
Yeah. One thing that always comes up Hockey is one of the ones who's very who's around at the live stream a lot, so he knows that I like to go off on certain of these theories from time to time. But the thing is that I don't have a problem with somebody who has an opinion that I don't agree with. I think that's normal. That's discourse, that's debate, that's all good. But sometimes somebody will say something that's objectively wrong, and then the other people in the discussion will be like, yeah, oh, that sounds reasonable. It's like, no, it's objectively wrong. It's actually just, this isn't an opinion piece. It's actually just wrong.
No, yeah, absolutely. Well, there's all sorts of folks that pop up in the comment section in the chat. You're like,
yeah. It's like, look, if you have an opinion, you say, hey, I think this player is better than this player. Or I think this set or this card is better than this card. These are my reasons. That's a discussion. That's a debate. That part's fine. We can do that all day. But if you say 2 + 2 is 17, even new math notwithstanding, I'm probably not going to back you on this one. I'm not just going to smile and nod and move on.
Fair enough. All right, let's dig into the focus collection piece. That was one topic that we wanted to talk about. Something that I
Sure.
am, and I think part of my problem, well, you know this just from talking to me before, but I'm really collecting sports cards,
Mhm.
graded video games,
Yep.
and graded comic books. I've got a few graded starting lineups, but I wouldn't call that really a segment that I'm really focused on. That's more of like, okay, that's something cool for my childhood. I'll grab a few of those, but
Sure.
I wouldn't say I'm actively looking
See,
at
I
the.
got you.
Oh, okay,
They're
yeah.
they're not they're not in the thing, but I've got them there, a little display thing.
Yeah. You get it. I actually have two, like it's not that rare, but the first Wayne Gretzky starting lineup, I think is from like
Mhm.
94 or 95. I've got it in my closet, but I
Okay.
picked up a few of those and they were like $5. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is, it's like the first Gretzky starting lineup. You got to
They're
have,
they're nostalgic, but they are ugly. When the McFarlanes came out, they
yeah.
basically blew them out of the water. It's like, actually, this kind of
Oh
looks like the
man.
guy. This actually kind of looks like the player. That's cool.
McFarlane was, yeah. I mean, I was a huge Spawn comic guy
Mhm.
back, just Image Comics in general. I mean, just not that I didn't like Marvel, but just how they kind of spun off, and then they were just their artwork and everything was incredible back in the 90s. They printed the absolute heck out of all that stuff, but Spawn was just so awesome. And then Todd McFarlane made the statues and the action
Yeah.
figures like you're talking about. I mean, it was wild.
I like that. Like I said, I like that he took the idea because I have one. The McFarlane is there,
Yeah.
and you can see how much bigger it is than the other ones. Like here's the small one. There's another small one over on the side, and then there's the McFarlane in the middle of it. It's a way
Yeah,
more detailed little piece. I took them out of the holders years ago, but they're there, and they're kind of a cool for display. They were designed for that.
absolutely. So at what point, I'm kind of to the point where I'm like, all right, I need to kind of just focus a little bit more because I'm kind of all over the place.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing to where it's not like I'm just buying a bunch of things. I'm like, oh, like 2 weeks later, I'm like, why the hell did I buy that? I do like the stuff I'm buying, but it's kind of more of like, it would probably be helpful if I just had more of a game plan going into the year. And I did see that you were doing this kind of previously year to year. You're kind of, game planning ahead and then also seems like you're kind of documenting it to where then you're
Mhm.
like, okay, this was my plan. How did it go?
Yep.
And then you talk about that. So tell me like why you ended up going that route and then how you kind of do it. What are your thoughts?
Sure. So more than anything, it was documenting it. I wanted to kind of
Mhm.
know how things because I always used to do it lightly. But when I started doing the videos, I said, okay, well, this would be kind of a simple way for me to be able to go back in time and see. My favorite one right now, and for obvious reasons, is the video I did at the end of 2019. So I have this plan for 2020, and then 2020 happens, blows the whole thing up. You
Yeah.
can't predict that one in advance. So at the end of 2020, I have this game plan. I got it all figured out, and then we have 2020, the rising of all these prices, all this stuff, all this market chaos going on, and then it's like so everything I thought was going to happen, it's like never mind, forget that new plan. I was still able to get a couple of the things done, but it was kind of interesting to see how the plan changed. So that means
Yes.
you got to be
And on that
flexible.
note, staying on that note right there, did the wackiness of 2020, did it pull you in other directions where you saw price? Like, did you kind of get into some of the spec game that I think a lot of people, me included, to where I was
Mhm.
just like, okay, I want to try, like prices are going crazy. Like what's next to go up? And then trying to ride that wave a little bit,
Mhm.
I mean, was that a part of your 2020 at all?
So very lightly, I do take a very strong collector focus with that stuff. What it told me though is that I said, okay, let me pay attention to this because it still matters, even if you're thinking collector side anyway. What it did was more money getting flushed into the system meant, and part of the reason why I changed my plan is that I had my idea of how I was going to progress in the collections that I had, but then money came in, and a bunch of people that had been holding some stuff for years decided to cash out. So all
Yeah.
of a sudden, a lot of the stuff that I've been looking for forever became available. So I had the list of the different things I wanted to do. Vintage actually took a bit of a back seat, not because I wanted it to, but because the main collection, this stuff was suddenly available. I've been looking for this one for 15 years. Now it's available. I've been looking a lot of these late 90s, really low print run inserts that weren't around. I had them on my eBay search for like 10 years. Nothing comes up or once in a blue moon. And all of a sudden, available, available. So I start hitting off these cards one after another after another. The problem is all the other 90s collectors, they knew they were rare. So they would push the price up and you'd have to fight for them a little bit. One guy came out with a whole collection that a guy who decided to divest himself of, and it was all the stuff I was looking for. So week after week, month after month for the whole 2020, I just started buying off the collection in chunks.
Wow. That's cool. That's really cool.
So 2020 was a big deal because it changed the game. It basically pushed me 10 years ahead of where I was planning on being. I've got almost all the 90s stuff I wanted already.
That's an interesting take because, a lot of times you'll hear collectors or longtime collectors say, like, I got priced out in 2020, 2021. I ended up like they're upset because they're like, I didn't buy anything. But you actually make an interesting point of it brought people out of the woodwork that were ready to sell because, they were, prices were higher. But you were probably okay with that because otherwise you wouldn't be able to get it.
Yeah, well, I try to be understanding of it because I do understand that it does get expensive. I'm not pretending it doesn't. In this case, though, I had all the regular stuff or most of the regular stuff. So you increasing the price on that had no impact on me. The other stuff, I was willing to pay strong money, but it didn't matter what I offered. It wasn't available. I can't buy it if it's not on the market. So the thought of making more money prompted these people. Now, if you're talking about common day-to-day stuff, the regular rookie suddenly getting priced up, wax being unavailable in 2020 especially, and all this stuff happening and random 90s, mass printed stuff going for multiples because it's in PSA 10.
Right.
I can't justify that, and I totally get that pricing somebody out. I get that. But if you are a collector and you look and there's stuff that you haven't been able to find for years and you've been searching for it and looking and asking people and doing all this stuff, money flushes some of that out in the market and brings it to now you're going to have to pay when it arrives, but if you're ready, I was willing to shift with the way the market worked out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I haven't heard many people say that, frankly. I mean, it seems like a lot of the long timers have just been kind of upset, like, prices are too high and it's annoying and I want to
Paying more sucks. Paying more sucks. I'm not going to blame them.
Yeah.
I get it.
But it did, it did flush out collections that were just like, okay, I'm going to cash out. That's actually a really good point.
Well, that's where that focus piece though helps you. Because I was collecting all kinds of stuff, then it's just like mass inflation on a grand scale in a very short, truncated time period in the hobby. And all of a sudden you are priced out. So I get that.
FV, for this one, I think this is kind of a tough one for me. But so here's kind of my thought behind it is there are certain players I certainly would like to focus on. But there are, I guess, a lot of important pieces in my mind that I would like to have kind of, if you think about, I was starting kind of from scratch, a couple of years ago, if we're talking about like building a collection. I started beginning of 2018, but I was just buying little pieces here and there, and I'm like unfocused now. I was definitely unfocused in 2018, and I was buying graded comic books that I wanted. So I think eventually I will get to a point where there's just maybe a couple of players here and there or whatever where I'm focused in on. But for right now, I think I want to just kind of take more of a broad look at things. There's just certain like football rookies. Like I got a Johnny Unitas rookie card. I'd like to have a Bart Starr rookie. I'd like to have a Namath rookie. There's, eventually, over time kind of get to those things. So I feel like there's a lot more to do before I can really narrow down to certain players. Yes, Anthony, because I'm Carlos is the name of the YouTube channel. Yes.
Not a self-indulgent naming convention at all.
Yeah. And the branded mug. Love it. Sadly, I have the same branded giant mug. I should have actually, damn it, I should have had mine ready to go with yours. Like we could have been like,
it was an opportunity. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I blew that. I'm going to text my wife. Hey, bring me something. Okay. You got a new subscriber, Anthony Pellegrino.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, that's right. There is a football game on right now. It's the Cardinals, and who are they playing?
Well, that's what I was saying to Criminal Mind. I go, there is a football game on if you're so inclined. Like, if you want to avoid the geekiness, like this is easy. That was. I don't have it as much anymore. When I used to do the live stream, we used to have a lot of people that wanted to be argumentative, which I don't. I actually like to argue. So like the problem is the biggest troll a lot of times in my live stream is the host. Sometimes that's the biggest troll involved. So I didn't mind it. It was fun for me. But sometimes it becomes repetitive. It becomes redundant and annoying. Then it's like, okay. But because my thought is like, look, if you're not enjoying it, and we can talk about content providers and content creators and all that a little bit later as well. But the thing is, if you don't like it, the good news is there's a lot of content creators on YouTube. You've got so many options. You've got every flavor. Yeah. I watch a lot of it. I watch a lot of different ones. Some of them I like more than others. And some of them are more informative to me than others. Some of them I enjoy their style. But if you don't like it, it's okay. So that's why I say I don't get offended if somebody doesn't like the style that I do. It's like, no problem. I've got other options for you. Go for it.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I never really understood that because it's not like there's three channels. It's not like it's CBS, NBC, and whatever. There's
Yeah.
not. It's not like we're just a few channels. There's a lot of options.
You're spoiled for choice now. You really are. For every category, like live streaming now, the weeks. It used to be that there were so many days available. You could pick this day and you had it all to yourself. There was a day last Tuesday. I think last Tuesday you had the live stream going. I think there were 5 or 6 simultaneous live streams going on at the same time. They were all hobby related.
Yeah, it's wild. You're right. I mean, that whole piece is just gone. I know there was someone, I can't remember who I was talking to, but they were like, oh, there's a lot of content creators that have kind of fallen off. Like there's
Mhm.
some, a lot that have gone away that were there a year ago.
And
And
that's
I'm like,
true.
yeah, that is true. But man, have you seen all the new ones that have come up? Like, I feel like everybody's got to, I mean, there's a lot of content out there, and I'm sure there's a lot more coming.
Yeah. Well, Friday, I picked Friday because Friday used to be like available. It used to be like a day that was open. Now Dakota and I, we have folks that watch both streams, and they kind of go back and forth because mine goes forever,
Yeah.
and Dakota's sitting there chatting with his purple shirt, and I've watched his stuff as well, and I'll check it on replay. But he'll start about an hour before me, and it's fine because at the end of the day, some folks are watching what I'm doing, some folks are watching what he's doing, and then there's a little bit carryover. But the thing is, it's like guys, even on the same day, there'll be two of us going at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to. So Monday, flipping Steve does his Monday night live typically. But like last week, I didn't do the live on Monday, and then he did his on Tuesday,
Mhm.
and then I did mine on Tuesday. So I'm like, Steve, like I didn't, I wasn't, I was trying to actually like work with you, and then, whatever. It happens. It
Yeah.
happens. But now you're right. It's like I'm trying to dance around Steve's live, but there's 5 other lives. So it's
I
like,
think as long as it's respectful, that's the reason why I mentioned it. I said no.
yeah.
And I would say if somebody's watching mine, it's not your cup of tea. Well, the good news is Dakota's usually doing his at the exact same time. Go for it.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but especially for the long live streams, I'll just put it on the background at
Yeah.
work, or something like that, or folding laundry or whatever. I watch a lot of hobby content.
Between half and 2/3 of the folks that watch my live stream watch it on replay because
Yeah,
you can watch it sped up and you can kind of listen in for the parts that maybe catch your interest. If you see something, you can rewind it and go, wait a minute, what did they say? And then because it'll go back and forth. My stream is usually we will talk about news and topics and discuss this stuff. But then we'll get into a stretch of silliness where the chat wants to talk about something ridiculous, and we'll do that for a while, and then we'll come back. We'll get serious, silly, serious, silly. We'll go back and forth.
yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so let's stay with the focused
Go ahead.
collection piece, and then we'll go over to YouTube because I actually want to talk about Bobby in a few minutes. So
Sure.
brace yourself, Bobby, if you're listening or watching. No, all right. So when you're coming up, because I think this is good for anybody that's watching, is you've been doing this for a while, for a long period of
Mhm.
time. How do you look at that coming year and say, this is what I want, or this is what I don't want? How do you even start there? Because you are collecting one player, but I know you are also buying other stuff. It's not just the Medano stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So usually what happens, so that's the common thread. So that became kind of the baseline, the core of the collecting thing. So I've got my player that I collect. Most of the time I have a secondary player. I've gone through a couple different ones. So it's one of those things where if I'm just not enjoying it or I don't enjoy hunting for those cards or looking for them, drop them off. That's where just being honest with yourself and reevaluate. Like, look, it's your money. If you're going to spend the money on it, you should probably buy something you like. That would probably be it seems really simple, but it's actually that easy. Buy something you really like. If you're talking about investing or flipping or whatever, different conversation, different set of parameters. We can talk about that. That's a different thing. But if you're talking about for your collection, it's like, no, it should be stuff you enjoy, stuff that you're happy with. And if you see nothing that interests you, good news. I can save you some money. Don't buy anything. Just
Yeah,
chill for a while. Because then when the thing comes that you want, then that's kind of a good opportunity then to be able to go after it and go get it. But for the vintage was another thing that was always kind of a pillar. And then as I work through the set, some of those sets have taken me years to work on. It's been this slow, methodical thing. So I'm not in a rush. I'll collect and I'll flip back and forth between these things so that I'm not focused on one thing so long that I get bored. That's
yeah,
what sustained me over time. It's that if I just single-mindedly focus on one thing, I'd burn out. I've never burned out because I'll flip to something
yeah.
else until so that I can be working on a different project or relax or slow down or speed up or whatever.
Are you building raw sets of raw vintage sets, or are
Mostly,
they
yeah.
graded? Okay.
For the stars nowadays, I will try to get a graded copy just because for the price has gone up to the point that it used to be easy to buy the even lower condition. It used to be easy to buy them raw. So I grabbed from a pile of from cards that I got on the desk. So that's a 56 tops
Ooh,
mantle. Now
yeah,
that
that's
is a one, and it looks like a one, and it's beat up and even has a hole in it. But I got this one raw originally on eBay, and back in the time, I don't remember exactly how long ago. I bought this years ago, but I probably paid about $200 for it. It'll cost you more than that in a one. But I got it
oh,
graded and then put it in a one holder. But that's how that stuff works. Now, if I tried to buy it now, good luck with that.
how do you decide? And well, and I guess you can tell me if you've kind of moved off of the vintage stuff, but
Mhm.
how do you decide between like that mantle card, a
Mhm.
vintage baseball card that's awesome, or kind of these because I think that we're also probably buying similar things, although I'm not buying hockey, but like lately I've
Mhm.
been looking at late 90s, early 2000s, rare inserts like the platinum portraits or the you name it. Passing the torch football is something I've been looking at with the
Sure.
autos, the ones that are that are lower numbered.
Mhm.
But anyway, that stuff, I don't want to say it's endless, but there are so many different kind of the jambalayas or whatever you're looking for.
Mhm.
How do you decide between, all right, I'm going to put resources towards vintage here,
Mhm.
or I'm going to focus on this series of inserts that I've been targeting? I mean, do you have a certain way that you do that, or do you just kind of go with the flow as it becomes available?
So sort of the way I did it at that time is that mantle was part of a 56 top set that I finished a couple of years back. It's been some time now that I finished it. So I was working on the set. So I needed to have the mantle, I needed to have all the star players. Today I don't work on as many sets because a lot of them so John Wolf there kind of makes a point about building sets, and I'm inclined to agree. I actually be When I was very young, my idea, I had the vision of doing a complete run of the tops and the Bowman and all that. It was kind of the dream because I had the pictures of all the different cards inside of the visual price guide that I had, and those were kind of aspirational. I eventually did a mostly complete run of the Manals minus the 52. I had from the 53 on to the end to his last card in 69. But what I discovered when I did that is a bunch of these cards, a bunch of these sets in the late 50s and some of the ones in the 60s, I just thought they were ugly. So it's one of those things where it's like, actually, I don't think, and 500, 600, 700 card sets, it's like, man, this is a slog. So
Yeah.
I became a lot pickier and going like, okay, I'm going to keep the manels that I like. I'll sell off the ones that I don't care for. I'll work on the sets that I like. It turns out it's a much more streamlined list, and I become a lot more interested in smaller sets. I like sets that are a little bit tighter, maybe have more stars in it per capita, and less of the common guys that maybe just don't interest me as much.
Okay. And then for the Medano stuff, does that still take kind of priority one over all the other things? You
Usually,
know,
yes. Usually, yes. The good news is that at this point, I have almost 2,300 different, and I've got a good chunk of the playing days, like his playing day stuff, especially in the 90s. I'm missing like 130 cards out of like 1,000 plus in the 90s, so I've got most of that.
geez.
So,
Yeah.
so it means like whatever's left is really rare. It doesn't come up very often, so it's not like
Yeah.
I have to worry about it. I've got my eBay searches. I'll check them all the time, but it's like no, if nothing comes up, I don't need to worry about it. If I see something cool, I'll pick it up. So now I get to be picky. Now it's like now the criteria is this: does it look cool to me? Yeah, all right, I'll go after that. Otherwise, it's like I don't really need another Medano card in my life.
Yeah.
I don't need them all. My goal isn't to have them all, but it's like no, I'll still pick up ones that are interesting to me. So once you get to the point collecting wise that you're literally collecting just stuff that you think looks cool, I think you're there.
Yeah.
That's your goalpost. Once you're just, it's like, you know what? I don't need anything. I don't need another card as long as I live. But if I see something that's cool, let's do it.
Yeah. I talked a little bit about that on my video today of just kind of also just appreciating the things that are already in house,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's like, I really do enjoy the research and the pricing piece of it, just seeing, and it's not even necessarily like stuff that I'm buying all the time or whatever, but I like looking at just, where stuff is moving and
Mhm.
why it might be moving and all that stuff. I just think that's fun,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's like, there's just, there's plenty of things here too, to just kind of enjoy. So I've been trying to like find a balance with that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, collecting cards is not supposed to be work. And
Right.
that's so when I do those kind of audio versions where I'm not on the screen, it's just my voice, I'm just talking. A lot of them, the theme is moving more and more because I want to keep slowly, hitting on that point. The point of this is it's supposed to be fun. If I'll listen to a lot of the content where they talk about flipping and stuff, but they're getting stressed out. It's like, well, flipping is dead and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, well, if you were just collecting, this wouldn't be a problem
Mm.
because I don't care. It goes back to what you said about the 2020 thing. Yeah, if prices goes up, it sucks in certain categories, but it flushed out certain cards in the market that I wouldn't be able to get otherwise. Opportunity. If prices go down across the board, the flippers freak out. Discounts. I win either way.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at it from the collector perspective, it doesn't matter to me. I'm good. I'm not worried about my ROI. I joked with Bobby on one of my last live streams. I go, my hobby ROI is negative. It's massively negative because most of the stuff I buy is PC. So if I don't sell it, I can't make any money on it, even if it appreciates 1,000-fold. I'm getting zero out of it. So it's like my ROI is horrific. I'm a terrible flipper.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Well, and then flipping, the last 18 months was fairly easy if you compare it to, to how it was, previously, I guess. So maybe it was just too easy to where it was just like, oh, and then everyone kind of falls into that lull of this is the new world that we're living in, and who knows, maybe there will be some ebb and flow on certain stuff all the time. I mean, I'm sure that'll happen. What is this? Hockey? How come you don't like many sports? Okay, so now I think what you're talking about is because I talk about a lot of basketball and football cards on my channel. I actually like a lot of sports. I was watching competitive ping pong the other day. I love sports.
We got to get you into Aussie Rules football, man.
Yeah,
it's like my underrated favorite. It's so good.
Yeah.
No, like I wish it was on TV more. I would love to watch more of it. I'm actually being serious. I actually do enjoy that sport.
Are you talking about rugby?
I'm talking about Aussie rules specific, because there's rugby, and then there's Aussie rules, which I prefer.
Oh, I didn't know the difference.
There are some differences. It is physical. It is high scoring. It is a lot of fun to watch. And we got Aussie accents, man. It's awesome. I'm sorry. It's great.
So yeah, hockey. I do like watching sports. I don't collect cards from every sport though. So you're right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not versatile in that way, but I do love sports in general. I'm the guy usually watching the Olympics, like the fencing, and then listening to like the storyline, why this guy, whatever, from like 3 years old has been fencing and now he's in the championship or whatever. I think that stuff is cool. Dustin, I watched your last video about that Bo Jackson fella, and it took me straight to Zion and how he was so polarizing. Oh, yeah. Well, Bo Jackson was everything when I was a kid. Well, and Carlos.
Bo knows.
Too. Bo was, they marketed the.
Bo was a phenomenon, though. Like he was.
He really was.
Zion's great, but Zion is a basketball player. He was a super athletic. Well, if he stops eating, he's a super athletic player with tremendous talent. But Bo Jackson was the uber athlete. That his brand was being an uber athlete, being good enough that he didn't dedicate himself to either baseball or football, and was an all-star caliber athlete in both.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is he was a thrilling player in two sports. It's odd to see it, like Deion Sanders played football and he played baseball, and you had highlights, but Bo Jackson had the the freaky athletic highlights that you just never see in both sports, which is like him running up, like catching the fly ball, like catching the ball and running up the wall, and just doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah,
he was a freak athlete. He was a highlight in today. If Bo Jackson came up today with the amount of highlights and super cuts and YouTube, he would be a monster to end all monsters. He would dwarf everything in his path.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting because when you think about how big Zion was coming in, I mean, I remember Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson in 91, his Upper Deck rookie card was like everything when I was a kid. But Larry Johnson, and I've heard kind of comparisons between Zion and Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson also was hyped big time coming in, huge, big time athlete. I mean, Zion has a really special skill set, but I just wonder kind of, we're in the social media age where everything is just, there's just so much, there's so much more opportunity, I guess, for these guys to really be hyped up, where like back then it wasn't, they didn't have, I mean, I guess that's what's so crazy about Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan in today's world would have been, I just can't even imagine, like with social media and everything. I don't know. It would have been like off the charts.
Well, I think Jordan falls on almost the same problem as Mickey Mantle would have in his day had social media been involved. It's like, you do realize there's a camera in your face, everything you're doing, right?
Right.
We'll basically find all of your character flaws, and we've got them on Instagram on loop.
Yeah. No, that's
Good
true.
luck with that.
Yeah. And Jordan was, is gambling, and there was
About those sponsorships,
yeah,
let's nod and say we did.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good
It's
point.
probably better for him. To be honest, the best thing that happened with Michael Jordan was being born in an era before social media so that he could do his thing. Yeah, we can talk about it more after. We can do the doc. Now with the documentary, now it's quaint. Now it's from a previous era where that could work. In his era, it was fine. And now it wouldn't fly. It would be impossible for him to get away with half the stuff.
No, absolutely. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift over to social media stuff or your YouTube stuff. So how did Bobby get on the show? How long have you known Bobby? I like how you guys, one thing I want to give you a compliment too, that you guys, the way that you're able to.
And then the insult after? I like it.
Yeah, this is going to be a compliment to set up the insult.
Okay, got it.
No, okay.
This would be my style, so please, by all means. I appreciate it.
No, I'm kidding. You guys flow really well together, which is, I find it hard to do when I'm on with Brad or whatever. Brad just talks for 45 minutes and I just try to squeak in here.
Brad doesn't know how to do the hosting thing. Right?
I'm kidding, Brad. I'm kidding. I'm sort of kidding, Brad. But no, you and Bobby flow really well to where I feel like you talk, then like, I don't know how he knows to like pick up where you stop. I don't know. You guys just flow really well. How did that come about?
So honestly, Bobby is the unofficial co-host because there is no co-host. The show is literally me, but Bobby started originally earlier on in the live stream when it was kind of an experimental thing. I would have a person on and we'd just hang out. That's how it would work. I'd bring somebody on and we'd hang out and chat for a period of time. Then after a while, I started doing a little bit more of an open thing, and I put the link on the screen. So literally, it was kind of an open forum for anybody to come in and join and chat about whatever. And Bobby was one of those folks that kind of took advantage of that and did it. And we did have a good chemistry and a good flow to chat. And Bobby, in his past life, was a salesman. So like he can talk. He doesn't really want to make his own content per se, other than the books he's written and articles he's written and that kind of thing. So for him, it's an avenue and a venue to share what he knows. And he's a wealth of knowledge because he's written multiple books on hockey memorabilia and those things. So he's got all that knowledge base. So for him, it's an opportunity to share that while at the same time opining on the current, being involved in the current. I'll bring a lot of that. Bobby has definitely also taken more on in terms of looking at stuff, but there's no official arrangement. Basically, most of the time when you guys see us on stream, we'll send messages back and forth through the week sometimes. But a lot of times it's like, all right, so we'll show up, and then it's like, all right, I'm going to talk about this, this, and this, and this, and this. If there's a big news thing coming up, then I'll go with it. 99% of what you see is winged.
Yeah,
I'll just make it up.
Yeah, that's great. And it is helpful to, you guys do a good job of pulling chat in, and chat a lot of times can help drive topics. And it's great having the chat, so you guys do a good job of playing, like having the conversation, but then also pulling in chat and using it all together.
Yeah. I think it's something it's also something that's practiced. We can tell you that you and Brad have your own chemistry and you do your own thing, but it's something also that you get accustomed to, because both of us could go on extended soliloquies. And sometimes if I'm passionate about it, I will, but I'm also aware that I'm going on an extended soliloquy. So then I'll later on in the stream, I'll switch the ratio. I'll keep my answer shorter and I'll adjust it. I'm not always perfect at it, but I try to be cognizant of it but at the end of the day, if you want to just chat with yourself, then you can do a solo show and you can talk as much as you want. That's why sometimes I'll say to the guys, it's like, guys, if I want to just talk uninterrupted, I can just do a video. If I do a standalone video, I get to talk as long as I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. Okay, so we were talking about this for a couple minutes before we came on. What are your overall thoughts? I mean, the hobby content is evolving, and you got into before I did. I started March of 2020. You've seen it kind of go, you've seen it kind of move around, and now you're seeing bigger productions. That's what I'm noticing. So yes, you have the everyday person like you and I would say we're grassroots folks. We don't have, at least I don't. Maybe actually I can't speak for Carlos. Carlos might have, Bill Simmons, money behind him.
So, Dustin, sometimes I have to remind the peasants where they stand. I have to remind them from time to time. Mostly tongue in cheek. Mostly.
Yeah. But, we're kind of the grassroots type channels, but man, there is more and more of the big money the backers coming in
Mhm.
and creating content. Nothing wrong with that at all. But I really like, though, the fact that higher production does not necessarily mean automatic viewership.
Yeah.
It's definitely has to still be earned. And we've seen that to where, there is higher production stuff that just nobody watches it. And I'm not even talking about sports cards. I'm talking about just in general
Mhm.
on YouTube. What are your thoughts on just the overall landscape? How do you, throw in, if you want to throw in how you see it going or any of that?
Mhm.
I'd be interested in just kind of hearing what you think.
Okay. So there's a couple of things to chew on there. So the high production thing, you're right. Of course, ideally we try to improve. Like I like to think that, especially when I do like standalone videos, I like to think that I've done a better job. I try to incorporate some editing where I think it's appropriate and it helps, where it'll help make it clearer and easier. So I try to do that. I do try to make the production a little better, but I've got a day job. I've only got so many hours in the day. I've got other things that I'm supposed to be doing. When I sometimes I do stuff when I find time in between meetings or something. So I try to find those opportunities. But it doesn't make up for content. It doesn't. If you've got nothing to say, like in the chat there, I can see Sportscards Anonymous, and he's done very well with his personality. And you've
Yeah.
got Neo, who
Oh
does
yeah,
as
Dakota's
many
got
videos.
purple shirts.
Yeah, he's
So
got a purple shirt. So right there, that's high production values by itself. But then you've got Neo with his charts. Like,
he's
come on.
got the charts and the graphs flying around. I can't keep up.
But here's the thing. In all seriousness, though, when it comes to Neo stuff, because I watch it all the time. And one thing that works, I think, for him is that he has a lot of people try to do the analysis thing, but he's built up a niche using those charts and trying to analyze it and do all that stuff. I don't try to do that stuff not because I can't, but it's not interesting to me, and it would come across as I'm not interested. You would be able to tell very quickly in my work, I'm an analyst. My job is to do that kind of thing at work. I don't want to do it when I'm doing hobby stuff. But I'm happy to analyze, Josh Luber had an interview. He said this, this, and this, and this. I finally got around to listening to the thing he did with Sports Card Investor, that interview. I
Yeah.
may do a video talking about his talking points from that interview. I'm happy to do that analysis.
And
But
I'll do a video analyzing your analysis.
correct. And exactly. And then I'll respond to your video and the infinite content loop continues. But I'm not interested in doing the graphs that show Zion versus, Juan Soto versus Mike Trout versus this, that, and the other thing. If I care about a card and I'm trying to figure something out, I will do that analysis on my own time, but it's not going to make it onto the channel because I'm not interested. And also there's other folks who are better at doing that content than I am. So you know what? I defer to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Neo, I'll give Neo credit. Rob does a really good job of, he can actually like really flow nicely, talking through whatever, and he can wrap sports into it, to where he's talking about what's going on in the games and what's going on in, Zion's foot or whatever, he can wrap it all together.
Mhm.
Yeah. But you're right. There are some, and some are better than others. So I totally get it.
Yeah. And that's kind of playing into the content thing, though. That's the reason why I mentioned when Dakota's channel. We're doing a live stream at the same time. And I'm not bothered by that because at the end of the day, what he's doing is actually different than what I'm doing. I watched the replay of his last one. He spent an extended period of time talking about Pokemon. I'm not doing that. So if you want the purple shirt and the Pokemon top, go to his channel.
And the margaritas occasionally.
Exactly. But that's okay. That I'm not asking anybody to choose. What I'll say is if you want to check out my thing live, awesome. Happy to have you. Happy to chat with you and do whatever. Otherwise, I would love if you check out the replay. I'm cool with that too. Do that. Leave a comment and then I can get back to it and I'll check it out later.
Do you just kind of and I'm kind of just throwing this out there at you, but you do a really good job of analyzing the newsy stuff, I think, too, where there might be, it's kind of like what you said, reacting to this or that or whatever, Josh Luber or whatever it is. Do you see yourself doing more of that in the future, or just kind of just doing it how you've been doing it? Because I think a lot of people do like to kind of hear those takes.
I do it when I can. It goes back to what I said earlier about got the day job. So I tried. Nothing would make me happier than to follow your lead and do 457 videos per day. I would love. It's just the lack of time. Just don't have the hours in the day.
I'm happy that you're not, because that would just cut into the viewership that's trying to watch mine.
Understood.
So
Yeah.
So just keep on doing your what you're doing.
I will settle for my paltry averaging a video every other day over the course of a year. And Dakota is the Pokemon guy. That is a fact. I see it in there. He is the Pokemon guy. He is the number one source in Pokemon with purple shirts on. The number one. use that. You can borrow it.
I talk about, yeah, wait, let me pull this up. I talk about Pokemon one time and now I'm a Pokemon guy. That's right. Hey,
That's 100% of the time that people are paying attention with the purple shirt on. So I'm sorry. That's your brand now. You're the Pokemon guy. Live with it.
Pokemon Anonymous.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do you think that we're going to see kind of the, more of the big, the kind of the bigger companies and kind of more focus? You had actually talked about this too. Was it today or yesterday? But there was a radio show or something that's
yeah. Well, when I was doing the little update and talking about this live stream and everything,
yes.
I mentioned that I love Sports Collectors Daily because they do a good job of having these little articles. A lot of time they're very short, they're not crazy, but when I saw it, it kind of caught my eye. And I think this is a good topic too. It quickly caught my eye just because it's so quaint. It's been such a long time since I even thought about the radio show, because the radio show, unfortunately, I think it's cool they're doing it. That's why I thought it was still worth mentioning. But part of the thing is that it's a bit quaint in 2021 going into 2022. It's that if you want to do a radio show, even a call-in show, the reason that I met Bobby is because I started doing like almost a call-in format. I put the link on there and I left it open. And for a while there, I would just, whoever decided to click on it, I had no idea who would be the other end of it. I had no idea what they would be talking about, what they'd be interested in doing. One of the channel favorites, Justin, who's going to make it in my highlight reel for the end of the day, he come on and boy, does he have enthusiasm. He has spirit, Justin. He has spirit. And his highlights make it into my video because of his spirit.
That's funny.
It'll make more sense when the recap video gets played. You'll all get it. You'll all get it. You'll understand why.
All right. Do you guys buy into Jeff and Luber's optimism about the future? I mean, the obvious answer that this is going to shock nobody, but my answer would be it's in their best interest, their best business interest for them to be extremely optimistic. They run businesses within the hobby. So, I mean, just from a business standpoint, I don't really see why they wouldn't be, but I also don't want to take away from the fact that I do think they're actually optimistic about it too. I don't, and they also just strike me too as just, that's their attitude, general positivity and all of that. So I don't think it's fake necessarily. I just think that it's their personality. And then also it's their business to be that way. I mean, Josh Luber, I can't imagine the pressure, honestly. Like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are like, man, I'd love to be him. I don't know if I would be, I mean, think about the amount of money that was poured into it. Then think about the pressure of, okay, you're at the helm, and then the pressure of figuring out how to make collectors happy, how to make the flippers happy, how to make all these people, all these different factions happy. That's going to be interesting to see how that works. But anyway, what's your thought on that, Carlos?
Sure. So I kind of agree with a lot of what you said in the sense that if Jeff, so here's the way I'll put it. They'll put their money where their mouth is. Josh Luber obviously agreed to take on this role. Basically as a CEO. I know he calls himself a visionary, officer or whatever. I forget what term he made up for his role. He's a CEO of this venture. Let's just call it CEO. But obviously he has some confidence in it. He's going to have an opportunity to take a stab at, his vision. I listened to some of that interview and I thought some of the interesting, there were some interesting things that he threw out there. I don't think he's going to follow through on all of them. I think it's the way that Nat Turner is very optimistic when he tries to give his projections. These are things he would like to do. Whether they can execute on it is a different thing. Jeff's optimism comes not only because, yes, he is invested in it, but people forget. They just think about market movers. He's got an ownership stake in Dibs. He's got an ownership stake in Slabstrong, which is a company, he's a minority, person in Slabstrong, which we had the guy Tim on the live stream and we hung out and chat about that and other things as well, because he does have some background as a collector as well. And he's just a fun guy to hang out. We actually met him at the Toronto Expo and he came by and we just hung out and chatted at the table. Honestly, at the table. At one point it was us chatting and Jeff, Sports Card Investor, was at the other table. And we were thinking, we had masks on. And I had a couple of people come by and they're like, "Are you Carlos?" And I was like, "I'm wearing a mask." It's like, "Oh, I recognize your voice." It's like, wonderful, splendid.
You're like, damn it.
Yeah, I was like, damn it. I thought this would protect me. And I was wearing a hat too. So it's like, nothing, no.
And then the next day you have like the wrestling mask. I
was going to say, I got to use the luchador mask and it's like, and just not speak. I can only speak in dialect and in tongues. But no, it was fun. But the thing is we sat there and chatted with him. So the only reason I asked him to come on was because we had a real conversation. And in the course of chatting with it, it's like, no, Let's talk about your story. Let's talk about what you're doing with this. But Jeff Wilson is a minority investor. Jeff Wilson is putting his money into a variety of different businesses in the hobby, helping promote those businesses. So it's like, if Jeff Wilson disappeared tomorrow, he's got hands in about 12 different businesses.
Right.
I'll see folks talk about Gary Vee in the same vein. They'll talk about, oh, Gary Vee isn't talking about cards much anymore. Gary Vee owns 1:37 p.m.'s podcast network, which has the Card Talk podcast, and two of the people on there work for Gary Vee.
Yes.
Gary Vee's involved without being involved. He's got other businesses. He's got other stuff to do. He doesn't need to be sitting there pumping sports cards 24/7. He's got other things to do, but he's still involved. He's still within the vicinity of it, and he still has an influence indirectly. That's just how it's worked.
Yeah. No, I think that those are good points. Yeah. Yeah. Is something that we don't think about on a daily basis is Jeff's, he's in so many different things, and that probably won't slow down. I mean, he'll probably continue to do so. But yeah, and actually, John, you make a comment here. I give Jeff credit for trying to pave the way for a better future for the hobby. And I do agree. Like, obviously, Jeff's a businessman. He's looking out for himself, but he also walked into, probably about the same time that I did, about, beginning of 2018. He saw inefficiencies as a business person that he thought that he could, get in and help. So, yeah, I mean, I know he's got haters just like everybody else does, but I do give him a lot of credit too. He was one of the first channels. I'd watched, a few channels, but, his channel, along with others, was one that kind of paved the way for a lot of other, channels, YouTube channels in this space. So I give Jeff a lot of credit, even though I know he gets a lot of people always, it's either like you're on one side or the other.
Well, he's supposed, at this point, he understands he's a lightning rod and he leans into it.
Yeah.
If he didn't want to lean into it, he would just let Teapot, the other one, do most of the shows, and he would back away and just not be present. Then he would fully be Kaiser Soze. He'd be behind everything. And just like that, he's gone.
Actually, you watch Jeff do something like that where he's gone for like a couple of months, but then he comes and then he's back.
Here's the thing, though. He has I use the Gary Vee example because, and Dakota's making the point here, but at the same time, yes, he's moving on to NFT. He also has a book. He's got about 50 things going on. Right. I think people assume that a person can be interested in multiple things, but we only have so many hours in the day, no matter who we are. Gary Vee is not immune from this. You run out of time. So if you're working on an NFT project, you're working on a new book, you've got this business, you've got that business, you got that business. So what do you want him to do? You want him to sit there and answer sports card? Why do you care what Gary Vee thinks about sports cards anyway? Like, he could legitimately be interested. He could legitimately have curiosity and enthusiasm about it. Does that mean he has any major insight that no one else has into sports cards? No. Does it mean that you need to hear about his thoughts on it 24/7? No. What are we talking about here? And again, he already launched a podcast network with a podcast that talks about sports cards every single week without him being around.
Yeah. What? Okay. Hockey 99. Jeff is insulting because of the use of mind-blowing in headlines. Speaking to Molly. Now, okay. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean here, Hockey 99, but if you're referring to titling and things for like YouTube videos and things like that, if you're talking about kind of the clickbaity type stuff.
The exciting thumbnails. Don't look at Dustin's thumbnails. Don't look at them. Don't look at them.
I don't know.
Divert your eyes.
I don't know anything about that clickbaity stuff. Here's the reality. And I hate to say it, and this is the world that we live in, unfortunately, but for YouTube, that you kind of have to have a little bit of that. That's just the way it's okay. It's kind of it's the marketing piece of YouTube. And yeah, obviously you don't want to overdo it. You want to make sure that the video is about what the title says. But the reality is that that's what gets the attention. YouTube is just about how to get attention. That's all it is. Same with like a TikTok or a Twitter or whatever. I mean, it's all the same. But YouTube, it's just that's just to get the clicks. And I know people will say like, it's just for the clicks, but every content creator is looking for the clicks in some way. I mean, it's just the way that it is, so I think it's there's a fine line there. You don't want to be having a title that has nothing to do with your video or whatever. But
there is a good topic here though. And I think we don't have to spend too much time on it, but it's really quick. But I agree with you in general terms. I think everybody has to make a decision, and let's, since they're here and kind of hanging out, let's talk openly. I've been able to chat with you separately. I had you on my channel to talk about something unrelated to sports cards. We talked about something else and something you have some passion for. I'm happy to talk about with almost anybody that has a passion for it. But that's like the prerequisite. You must have an actual interest and passion in the thing. And if that's the case, then I'm open to it. Tim literally came on, but he talked about his product probably for the equivalent of like 10% of the time we were there. 90% of the time we were talking about other thing, and we were busting the chops of one of the other guys on the screen that was buddies with him, that they came over and spent endless hours together, and they got lost. They missed restaurant reservation. We had dinner with them. We hung out, we chatted. So like, it's a lot easier to engage in a conversation. So it wasn't just, hey, you're here to promote your product. That's not what I'm doing here. Because if so, then my kickback sucks. I need more money, especially after that SCI money comes in. And I've often said, and I'm serious about this, if Fanatics or PSA wants to come in and buy my show, you're going to need a lot of zeros on that check. But I will sell out so hard. Y'all don't even know how hard I will sell out to that Fanatics money. Y'all don't even know.
Yeah.
But the point is that the thumbnails and all that stuff is to draw attention. Yes. And you've been very successful. And I've commended you for drawing the attention that you have and built up a channel. In this space, we're niche. SCI does everything in his power to promote more than anybody else in the hobby, and his channel has 120,000 subscribers, which sounds really good, except we're in the world of YouTube when there are folks with millions of subscribers and millions of... This is a niche. The biggest ones we've got are a niche. Really tiny in the grand scheme. Neo's done a great job. Dakota's done a great job building it. I'm too lazy to do those crazy thumbnails, and frankly, I think the faces look dumb, and I'm not going to do it. I just refuse because of laziness mostly. But I know that it draws more attention, whether we like it or not. It's a different conversation. The clickbaity titles draw more attention. I understand that. But I'm also in this weird space. I'm really operating very much as a collector first. I mentioned it earlier with the reason why I don't want to do too much of the market analysis, even though my background allows me to give that a go if I really want to. I can. But I'm not excited about it. And it would sound fake coming from me. It wouldn't sound, you'd know I'm not enthusiastic about it. And at the same time, the other side of the coin here is, while I do want an audience, I do want a platform, I want to be able to say something and somebody hears it, my format is all wrong if I want to maximize the amount of, I said it to Dustin before we turned it on. If I wanted to get more views on some of the stuff, I'd keep the video to like 10 or 15 minutes. Keep them shorter, but it would also be more surface level. It would never be exciting. And then what happens is you're missing 3/4. Whatever analysis you're talking about, I'd never get to it. I'd have to stay super surface level because I gotta finish this video and move on to the next one. I got no time.
Right.
The good news is that more people would watch it. The bad news is I wouldn't do what I want to do. So then unless I'm selling out to the Fanatics, now again, if Josh Luber wants to cut me a check, I will make 5-minute videos. I don't care. Whatever you want.
Yeah, no, you actually make a good point, because I think definitely with a lot of my stuff is 8 to 10 minutes, but I typically scratch the surface. I hit on a couple of the points that I'm going to hit on, but the way that you do it though, and I really like how you do it, but I'm also someone that's sitting, I'm ready to sit here and take the time to listen to it, because it's going to be a drawn out. You're going to make a few different points. And like you said, it's not going to be an 8-minute video, so, but yeah, it's really hard to get, all your points across in a short amount of time.
If you want to go into any depth at all, use any examples or analogies like that's, run out, the bell hits and you're like, I'm out of time. So it's impossible. I know, I think Hockey mentioned it. He mentioned that in a video, I cracked out the microeconomics textbook. That was from my first year university days. And I literally opened it up to the old supply and demand curve. It's like, the rules of economics have not been violated. It's like, because I'm coming at it from a real background. It's like, I studied economics in school, not for the whole time, but I studied it. I studied accounting. I did all these things. That's the background I'm bringing when I'm talking about some of this stuff. But I don't want to sit here and read charts to you all day. That doesn't excite me. But I don't mind when Neo does it. I enjoy it. So because I'm watching it, I'm listening to what he's saying. When Dakota's got a think piece, I'm listening to what he's saying. I may not agree 100%, but at least I understand what he's getting at. I'll listen to the thought process through and be like, okay, I get what you're thinking.
Oh, I'll hit you with one. So are there any channels that you wish that they were putting out more stuff because you enjoy listening to that particular channel or person and you just can't get enough of it? And I didn't talk to Carlos before asking this. So
it's a good question, but my honest answer is no.
And I know you're probably going to say my channel, and
other than your channel, no. The answer is no. No, the biggest reason why is that a lot of the ones who I enjoy what they're doing, I think they would serve. Now, it goes back to what I said earlier. If they did what I would prefer, they would get less views because I like the fleshed out. I like the long form. I like the thinking something through, analyzing, breaking down. One of the best ways to build a case for whatever you want to argue with is put yourself in the shoes of the person who's disagreeing with you, whoever's disagreeing with you, and really think about how they would attack your argument and then build your case to make sure you've got that covered. Because
Yeah.
if you're really thinking about if there's holes in your game and you really put yourself in the other shoe, you would quickly find out, oh, actually, there's this hole. There's this hole. This is an assumption I just made. I'm assuming something. Wait, I didn't quite flesh this out. Maybe this is actually factually wrong. Let me double check that. So it's not going to be perfect, by the way. Everything's got holes in it. But if you left Swiss cheese holes that you can fly a 747 through, you might want to rethink that piece. So in that case, less videos, but more thought. Measure twice, cut once would be a better approach. But guess what? You will get less views that way because you're not as regular in your content.
And speaking of less views, John, it's amazing how, I mean, when you talk about quality coverage of vintage cards, for whatever reason, I mean, vintage cards are just not on the radar the same way that Zion cards are, or how to get cards at Target, how to get cards at Walmart. Is that'll get you views. Talking about Hank Aaron rookie cards, for whatever reason, it's just not. It doesn't hit the same way on YouTube. I've noticed that.
Well, if you really think about it, for most channels,
Yeah.
if you do different types of videos, the one that'll get the least amount of views on average compared to your regular stuff will be your collector stuff.
If
you're talking about your collection, if you're talking about this thing, it doesn't matter what it is really. Obviously, if it's more niche, it'll be even less. The videos that I do that get the least amount of views are when I'm talking about pickups and things that I added to my collection. People would rather hear me talk about Fanatics. They'd rather hear me talk about a market thing. They'd rather hear me talk about Gary Vee, Vegas Dave said a thing, or this, that, and the other thing. 1,000 times out of 1,000, a few people will watch the other one. Most people don't care.
Yeah, no, it's true. I did a video today that I thought actually was like, I was really happy with it. It was about cards and mental health and just talking about, the positivity of looking at cards, being involved in the hobby camaraderie, etc. It was an 8-minute video. It wasn't like I've spent 30 minutes talking about it, but I was like, man, this is one of my better videos. This is like, I'm hitting on like real life stuff, with today's video. And it is not even close to being as popular as like any of the other ones. I mean, I'm like, I don't understand really how it works. But the one thing I do like to do on my channel is throw out topics, because I do watch a lot of hobby content, and I try to hit on, if I have a thought on something that I don't see covered very often, which happens quite a bit, frankly, because a lot of the same topics are covered in a lot of the hobby content, then I'll just try to I'll put that out into the universe and see how people react to it in the comment section. I enjoy that. But to your point, that today's video was not, like I thought, yeah, this is kind of interesting. Maybe people will think it's interesting. Nope.
But it's this thing on average. And the thing is, I do it every single week. I understand it's going to be the least viewed one of them. I get it. But it's to document what I'm doing. I'm not worried about that one. And I said it in previous years when I did the year end. I said, I'm still going to keep doing them. I know most people don't care. I get it. But I'm doing it to keep track, because when I do my year end and I want to do my best pickups and my favorite pickups, how else am I going to know which one was done at the end of December and which one was in January? My pickups videos tell me that. I can go back. It actually tells me exactly what I picked up at that time. I can follow the journey and I'll know what came. So it's for my benefit more than anybody else's. It's like, no, that one's for me. If nobody else watches it, I get it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But folks are scared away by the folks are on average scared away by the longer view things, because I'll listen now, and Carvin, he's doing a lot of great things now with his Infinite and that thing with the weekend and that stuff in there. And I'll listen to interviews where he's talking about it, and he'll give his stories and things. And I chuckle because in 2020, I did 2 long form discussions with him that went 10 hours combined. Almost every story he gave, he was already there. It has like 200 views. It's from 2020. If you go back, almost every story he gave in a lot of those podcasts, it's there already. I can play back the clip for you. We already talked about it. 2020. Y'all just catching up on this? That's adorable.
I wish Dustin would do a cooking show. Actually, my wife could do a wicked cooking show. She's good looking Italian girl. I've told her, like, if you got on YouTube, babe, you would probably do pretty well.
Cooking would do. She mind you, I don't know. Would you be okay if she destroy your numbers?
Oh,
like destroy them?
Yeah, not even close. And actually, it would be kind of fun to see how she would do, just because cooking and recipes and all that is extremely difficult. To be like trying to start like a fitness channel or whatever. But it would be really cool to see her just just try that and see what happens with it. That'd be kind of fun to watch. But yeah, I can't cook at all. That's why I married a girl that can do all the cooking. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm not a cook.
Nice.
I'm just trying to get caught up on some of these comments here.
Problem. I like the comic book slander. That was fun.
Yeah, the comic book stuff. I know it's funny how I thought too. I'm like, oh man, like sports cards, comics, it goes together. People collect things.
Nope.
Apparently not. That was not
a comic book channel works fine. A sports card channel works fine. Combine the two, ne'er the two shall meet.
You know what shocks me though about comic books too, and I follow comic book hobby content. Not a lot of big channels there either. You look and there's a few here and there, but it's still really niche. And I don't know. I just thought there would be just a lot of comic book folks, but there's not. I mean, there are, but just the buying and selling or flipping of comic books or anything related to commerce and and that stuff, not really. Not much.
That was the thing though, is that's why I posed the thought out earlier. I said, so do you want views or do you want to make what you want to make? Because if you want views and you want to make the big bag of money, the channel title is Personal Finance Ad. Trust me, if you talked about finance and didn't mention a sports card ever again, that's where the bucks are.
Right.
The Graham Steffens of the world and all that. Finance YouTube channels, the monetization on that, the ads and everything, you run the same video, get the same amount of views, you get 10 times the amount from AdSense.
I know, and I did everyone a service by not taking down Graham Steffen. I didn't want all that money. I turned away all that money.
You are a saint. You are a saint for turning down that bag. Yeah,
yeah.
You really are.
I was like, you know what, Graham, you're doing a good job. I want things to keep going well for you, man. No, but yeah, no, I think that the YouTube thing is just so interesting because I did a short. I did one of the YouTube shorts with my dog. The one thing I like about YouTube Shorts is you can use music. I guess because it's not monetized or whatever, they allow it.
That's right, yeah.
And I use like a Halloween themed Halloween movie theme, with my dog in it. It got like 1,000 views or something, and it's like 10 seconds. But I don't understand how any of that equates. Like, I just don't understand how they, set it all up. In the chat, do you like the short? Like, do you watch the shorts or do you skip over the shorts? Like, because some people, it's like Instagram stories. I still am not the guy on Instagram that watches 50 stories, but I know that people do that. Yeah, Neo does a good job of he does a good mix of comics and cards. I agree. Yeah, and Reggie Collects is a good channel.
It probably also helps that now at this point, the branding is such that it says comics and cards. So if you want to complain about it, it's like, it's literally in the title.
Yeah, but again, like this is kind of
it works though.
It does work though. It's a fine line. And the thing is, what people have a different definition of what clickbait is. Some people would look at something and say, well, that's, it's borderline. I try to stay on kind of the borderline.
I'm far, like I already told you, I am far more offended by your attempted skits at the beginning of the video. Ha ha, hee hee.
That's so.
I'm way more offended by that. And secondly, I'm still offended by the cartoon because it's full of lies. You are peddling lies. You do not work out that much. We know this. The 52 tops, 68 tops mantle thing has not been solved. It's all lies. This entire channel is built on a complete bedrock of lies.
Carlos, the analyst, is digging through. Actually, that's a video. That's a video topic, breaking down my intro video and how
I only really need that one thing. It's like Personal Finance Dad is a wizard. You are a liar. And I demand that you show us those PRs, bro, if you're going to try to pull that stunt.
That was my pre-pandemic body, and I'm still trying to get it back.
Right.
I'm still working to get it back.
It's complete bedrock of lies. This is just this whole thing is under false pretenses. Ridiculous.
All right, so Dakota likes the shorts. And I'll be honest, like I've got a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. That's all they do, like the TikToks and all that stuff. I'm kind of wondering, like, if I should just be doing like 20 shorts a day instead of doing a 10-minute video. Saying
it'd be a test on the attention span.
Carlos, you could do 80 shorts a day. Just break up the 30-minute video into 30-second segments. And
no, if I really wanted to do it, I'd take the Carvin interview and the Carvin discussion, and I would break it into the 1-minute shorts. and it's like 5 hours, and it would just take me through the end of the year into next year.
Work hard, work smarter, not harder, right?
I don't know if cutting them up into those many pieces is working smarter. Maybe if I hire an editor.
Oh, we like when your kids cut in when you are alive. Mine don't really do that. Are you talking about me? And I don't think, Carlos, do you have kids?
Not that I'm aware of. Hopefully
Carlos,
not. I hope not.
Interesting.
Listen, Vegas wives don't count. I don't care what any of y'all say.
Yeah. What kids? Oh God, that's funny. All right.
Roll with it.
Yeah, on the content creation side, I think that it goes without saying that I need to be putting out more. I think shorts is probably where to go.
Obviously.
I'm probably going to chop this live stream up into 20 videos. That seems like, obvious. Yeah.
Well, we already talked about it. You did your top 50 cards that you've broken up into 5 pieces.
Oh,
I already told you could have broken up into 50 pieces. You're slacking is what you're doing right now.
Just one card every video for, make it an 8-minute video.
But drag it up for the 8 minutes to maximize the amount of AdSense you get for it.
What'd you think about the comedy at the beginning of the video I did with Chris, the vlog that I tried to do at the Raleigh Card Show where they didn't allow video inside the, that was definitely anticlimactic when you can't have video at the sports card vlog.
I was more offended by your video being tilted so that 3/4 of the screen was black.
I didn't know.
I felt like that to me was a more offensive to my senses.
Formatting issue. Yeah, I couldn't figure that out. But you didn't like that part at the beginning? Like, please don't screw this up. Like, that was good.
I think Dustin, I'll tell you this, and I wouldn't say this just because, and I'm not just saying this because we're live. As a comedian, you were a great hairstylist. Keep going.
Oh, I think that I'm doing pretty good. Actually, Dakota did if Dakota's still in the chat, Dakota did comment that he did like that first 10 seconds.
I think it's some of the best high school acting I've seen.
Hey, you got to have what do they say in a story? You have to have the hook at the beginning. It's the hook at the beginning.
Right.
So I've been trying out different strange physical comedy stuff. And you know what, to be honest, I'll probably just I'll probably keep that going. We'll see. I don't know if Carlos is going to be tuning into my stuff, but we'll see.
No, what I do is I click your video and then I hit the forward to skip the skid attempt. To skip the skid attempt.
I thought that you would like the intro music though. Like at least
the intro music is the only part that I think is fine. It's like I said, the cartoon is a lie and the skid is questionable, but I think the music's fine. Music's fine.
What about the Retro Game Dad? It has the same sort of formatting, but it's all video game stuff.
Well, I was still waiting for the Easter egg. I thought I was going to get an Easter egg in there. What the hell?
Oh yeah, I've got to put the Carlos logo on the arcade machine.
I was promised things, Dustin. The point is I was promised things.
I'm working on it. That'll be with the 3rd and the 4th channel.
It's the least you can do.
All right. So 2022, we've talked about collection goals. What about content goals? Are you trying on a serious note, are you trying to shift anything around, trying to do more, trying to do less? Is there anything that is your production team being hired right now? Are you going to be at shows with 7 people with a boom mic and all that? Is that coming?
Well, Luber and I are in talks. So that's
okay, well.
I can't confirm that we're done yet, but you'll know when I go to the 8K red cameras. That'll be really important. When I go to the 8K red cameras,
you can see every piece of skin, just like.
But you'll see everything. You'll see things y'all never wanted to see. You will want to go to audio only after we're hitting 8K. That's all I'm saying.
Behind the scenes.
You might want to be prepared for that. It's important. No, for the most part, the plan is to keep doing a lot of the same. I want to refine some of the stuff I love doing the live streams. That's still my favorite. I kind of call it the flagship of it because to me it's fun. It's kind of a catch-all. Like even when I do videos during the week, if it's an opportunity to flesh it out a little bit more. I may try to be a little bit more particular about bringing more folks on. I felt like I did well this year having more folks on to chat about some stuff specifically. I thought that was fun. Hopefully more of that in the future. And I'll probably reach out to a few more folks and get a little bit of different perspectives. That's fun. I don't have any hesitation about keeping them long, but I want them to make sure that that the live streams, if they're going to be long, I want it to be full of enough content where somebody goes, oh my God, I got to check out the replay. Even if we got some silliness in between, I want people to be able to say, oh my God, even in the last little bit, there was still some good stuff in there. That's the hope. That's the goal I have.
Yeah.
The regular videos I'm pretty happy with. Like I feel like the audio thing when I don't need to show you anything and I'm just talking through it, it's more of a podcast format. I did put it on Anchor so that people can listen to it if they want to. There's no monetization. I don't have access to it in Canada, so y'all get that for free. It's full free. The YouTube channel is the way to support it. That's the easiest way. That's the hub for everything.
What about, are you going to open up the donate to my PayPal thing? I thought about that of
You
like,
talking about like the join button or whatever?
no, well, yeah, well, I've seen people just bypass that altogether. And it's just like, here's my PayPal address if you want to send me a
Well, you
donation.
could, but here's the thing. I'm appreciative of any time. I've gotten a few of those super chat things. I'm always appreciative. I'm in a catch-22, right? I talked about it in the last live stream. I said, if you really think about the amount of time we spend on some of this stuff, the pay sucks. Like if you really think about it, I joked with them and I said to them, literally, I'm happy with my channel. I would love to have a few more views on it, but I'm not going to do what needs to be done to really push that the way it's done. Look, I'll come on anybody's channel and just talk about whatever you want to talk about, but I'm not going to promote it over the top. It's just not me. But the thing is, I find it hard. Knowledge, unfortunately, has become free. It's hard for people to think because I'll watch streamers that do different that'll review wrestling shows, and you'll get $100 super chats. I've seen $500 super chats, and it's literally just so they can rant about a wrestling show you could watch yourself.
Yeah.
I respect it, but at the same time, it's like, man, think about that. Just think about that. And I'll go do a 4 or 5 hour thing. That's what I say, like with the amount of hours, and then you add up with the AdSense totals. And I was serious. It's like a month most of the time. I make more money eating my lunch. So I'm not doing it for the money. If so, then I'm doing this all wrong. Then I need to do YouTube Shorts because at least per the hour, that's a better ratio.
I will say that over time, I've had people that have busted on me about my faces on my thumbnails. And now I'm seeing some of those same channels throwing up faces on their channels. So
Right.
what does that mean? That means Carlos in 2022, you've heard it here first. He will have goofy faces on his thumbnails. It's coming.
The only thing I'm going with is the logo. I'll do the guy pointing up. That's about as far as it goes for me. And that's a pre-existing picture that I just use on everything.
No, and I tell people because it is true. I mean, my kids think it's hilarious. They're like, Dad, what the heck are you doing? You know, but I mean, so that's a big part of it too. I have no shame, number one.
Well, if you really had no shame, you'd hit the join button. Then you could give people custom emojis and nothing else and basically charge them for that.
I'm going to set up a Patreon tonight.
But you don't need a Patreon. YouTube gives you the join button.
Oh, I thought the join button was the Patreon though.
No, that's YouTube. Patreon is separate from that. You can have a Patreon and the join button.
Oh my gosh. There's so many ways.
I was like, y'all missed it. You're missing this. You're welcome, Dustin. I expect a cut.
Yeah. Oh man. $500. Yeah, no kidding. $500.
No, I've seen it, and not once or twice. Like I watch it kind of in the background, but obviously they acknowledge it when somebody does something, and then I'll turn over and I'll be like, "So you gave $500, and this one gave $100, and this one gave $50, $70. If you add up all those super chats on like a 2-hour live stream, some of those guys will do. They take home thousands of dollars on one live stream. Now do the math compared to the AdSense thing. Imagine if you took home $2,000 or $3,000 in super chats on one live stream. YouTube takes its 30% cut, but it's 70% of that. That's still pretty. You can actually make a living on that if you do multiple live streams a week, which he does.
Right.
Think about it.
Man, that's incredible. To be fair, Neo, though, you're not putting your face on most of the time. I know you do for your live stream.
He's the voice.
Yeah, you're the voice. You don't necessarily do the face-to-face stuff, which is totally fine. Like, hey, it works for you.
Well, even when he does the face-to-face stuff, he doesn't do the face-to-face stuff. He's got the camera angled.
That's a good point. Do we even know if it's him?
Well, Dustin, you can do it this way. If so, I think that may help you with your live streaming career.
Interesting.
I like actually facing the camera. For better or worse, I like facing it. So
I might actually, you know what I'm going to do is just do it like with my back, with my back to the video, just so people are like, what the hell is this guy doing? I'm going to try that one day. One day, literally, there's going to be a video where it's just like I'm facing the wall the other direction.
Have you thought about doing the live streams with Brad where you get him to do a green screen and then you control what happens in the background?
I haven't thought about that.
No, you should.
I'm just trying to keep Brad going at this point, you know.
But I think that would be a phenomenal idea.
That is
do
a good
green screen. Do a green screen, and it's like, don't worry, I got you.
Oh man, yeah, he's a goof. He's funny. Yeah, that actually is interesting. I'll talk to him about that, the green screen thing.
It gives possibilities. Just saying.
I'm just looking in the chat to see why do you Oh, okay. Why do you guys, or what do you guys make of the rise in F1? It is the fastest growing audience for sports in North America and a card tie-in. So I've been on the bandwagon of, I think this is just a fad flip, like high end flippers are making this a thing. And it's a fad that I was kind of on that train. And then I was talking with my brother a couple of days ago and he's like, yeah, I got up early to watch the F1 races. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? You're watching the F1 races. And he said that basically he got into the Netflix show, which again, I need to check out. He said, once you kind of get into the Netflix show and you understand the background of the drivers, then it makes it a lot more interesting watching the races. So maybe there is something to F1. As far as the F1 cards go, I just kind of assume that this was like high-end flippers, flipping the stuff, putting it out on social media. It gains traction, and that's how it came to be. There's limited new product, I know, for F1. I was kind of wondering why people don't look more at like the Schumacher and the like the vintage stuff, because that's usually what happens. You have like the new stuff, and then people are like, "Oh crap, there's actually like rare vintage stuff for this," and then they go to that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on F1? Are you a big F1 guy, Carlos?
Not all, not in the least. But I've looked into it because I'm interested in the phenomenon that people talk about it. It's one of those things. As soon as people start talking about it, it's like, okay, let me look into this a little bit myself. I agree with you, but it goes back to, so when I did that video where I talked about the demand thing, the problem of demand, or I forget what the title was. It was the issue of demand or the problem of demand, something like that.
Yeah.
My point was just this: that can be true, and it still doesn't necessarily translate to cards. There's a question that we've got here, because something can become more popular. You can see this documentary and go, oh, this is kind of a cool, the Aussie rules football thing. I think that's really cool. I enjoy the sport. I'm happy to watch it. Does that mean I need cards? Not necessarily. My sport that I watch the most on TV, that I watch the most hours of, is football. 3 guesses which sport I collect the least. 3 guesses.
Football the least?
Yes. Not by not even close. Do I pick up some football cards? Absolutely, for sure. There's certain ones that interest me, and I'm a card collector, so I'm already predisposed. Like already automatically, I'm predisposed.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I need football cards. I can enjoy watching my team. I've got my Packers jersey, I've got my Packers hat and my Packers mug and all that stuff, and I can be enjoying with my miscellaneous merch for football. I don't need to get into cards, and I'm a card collector. So we can't assume that automatically, oh, more fans, therefore more card collectors. Maybe that might be true. That could happen. But that might also play into your thing with the historical drivers as well. It might just be a case of, yeah, they're interested in what they're seeing right now on the screen. They're interested in what's going on right now. It's the same thing with the NBA. When Luka had the big pop, the big pop count on his rookie and everything, they're like, well, there's millions of Luka fans. That might be true. That doesn't mean there are millions of Luka fans who want to buy his card, that aren't satisfied with a Mavericks hat, Mavericks jersey, watching the game, supporting him that way. They don't necessarily need to go out and buy a Prism rookie. That might not be their first or second or third option. They might think about other ways to support and enjoy it.
Yeah, and a lot of the people I've seen that have gotten into it, it's common that they'll say like a year ago, 6 months ago, had no interest in F1 whatsoever.
Sure.
It was literally like they just got into it. And that's the reason why I thought it was kind of fatty. Like it was a fad, is because it would be one thing if you were watching the sport and then you're like, oh my God, there's cards, or they're coming out with cards for my favorite sport. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But the fact that it just kind of sprung up, and then you also think of the fact that it feels like a lot of people are looking into that next big thing. Everyone's looking for like the next opportunity.
That was what was going on a lot in 2020 and beyond. Right. It was the reason why a lot of people got into a lot of stuff where it's like, are you really interested? Or is it just, it's cheaper than the other stuff, and therefore you jump in? It's the soccer conversation.
Yeah.
Are you trying to tell me that soccer got invented recently? Because it didn't.
Right.
Are you trying to tell me that soccer cards weren't available previously? They were. I went to card shows where there were guys who had entire soccer tables. They made business. They were able to make money, but a lot of that stuff was gathering dust. A lot of the stuff that today goes for big money, I could have bought a case of it. And I'm not just saying, like, no, I literally could have bought a case of it, and it was sitting there show after show, untouched. No one cares except for the hardcores. And now it's a thing. Okay, fine. Mbappe. Great. Mbappe.
Yeah, I think this kind of falls into, UFC on its own is a popular sport. It's popular. F1 is, and NASCAR and all those things. I just kind of feel like there's kind of those niche sections of people that are probably trying to get other people involved in it because they think it's cool or whatever, and they're collecting it. And just it's natural that you would, if you love collecting something, or if you're just got into something and it's hot, you like it, you're trying to tell other people. Does it have staying power? I think time will only tell on that front. I mean, that's. We just have to wait and see.
Well, the other one that Hockey is talking about is UFC. So, but let's play another scenario. Let's play the scenario. Let's say you're a fan of the sport, and let's say you're a card collector, and let's say you even like the cards. Let's say now the prices go up. You can get priced out. It can be a point where you're a collector, you're a fan, but it's like, but not at these prices. I can't do it. There's a pile here, right about where my finger is. There's a pile of 2018 UFC Topps Chrome autographs. I have most of that set. It's a 33 card set if memory serves me. I think I'm missing about 3 or 4 of them. The last couple are going to cost me a bundle because one of them is Sean O'Malley, who's super crazy price wise. But I've got Amanda Nunes. I've got UFC Hall of Famers. I've got champions. I got all that stuff. These are on card, hard signed autographs. And
Nice.
because I like UFC, because I watched UFC for years. But the prices but UFC Prism, I'm not even thinking about it. The price is off the charts. I'm a fan of UFC. I'm a card collector. I can't do it. What does that tell you?
Yeah. And if anyone would stretch for a new product, it would be you. If you were, because you're already into it, you're already collecting it.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
too much. Like I can't, the price
Yeah.
doesn't work. The price doesn't work for me. I can't go there because you're already asking for a way. I bought 2 or 3 boxes of that stuff when it came out in 2018 because it was cheap. I bought it at $100 a hobby box.
Yeah.
Try that with Prism. Let me know how that works out. You can't get the retail in the secondary market for 100.
Yeah, that's so wild. So I assume that you had mentioned kind of people kind of coming out, collections coming out and selling, which was good because a lot of the stuff you couldn't get. Have you just kind of just waited on all the product stuff, the packs and the boxes? Have you just kind of held off on that over the last 2 years, 18 months, just with all the price increases, or are you still buying some of that stuff?
So I would get a blaster here and there when I could at retail. I refused to pay secondary market. That was part of the reason I wasn't super sympathetic to folks that complained about the secondary market. I said, okay, fair. No, I balance this. There's this tightrope I walk. I am sympathetic, but then I say, okay, no problem. But then look at the person to the left and to the right of you and say, hey, don't buy secondary. If you think the price is out of whack, that supply demand curve, I believe in it because I do believe that if the collectors say like, we're good, man. Y'all keep flipping it amongst yourselves, but eventually if you need a collector, we're out until the price comes back down to our equilibrium level. But if you start paying secondary market, well, then you can't complain that they're charging you the extra because you're letting them get away with it. You're paying into it.
Yeah.
I refuse. I like opening packs. It's fun. It's a good time. And I'll still do it when I can and when the opportunity presents. But right now, because things suddenly got quiet, cheap grading wasn't available. Now I can get the odd blaster here and there, so I open the odd blaster. Isn't that funny how that works? It's weird.
Guys, if you want to really get in on something early, I don't ever do this. I hate doing this, but
don't forget to give it time horizon. It's important.
I hate doing this, but Bowling Goat.
Is it Pete Weber?
It's Walter Ray Williams.
Oh, Walter Ray Williams.
But I've also got his buddy Pete over here.
Okay, you got the Pete Weber. Good. That's
I'm
important.
a little sad though that he's not wearing shades. But you know what? I think he's outside and he only wears shades inside.
Look, you think I'm joking, Dustin. The problem is Panini screwed up. In my opinion, in 2020, the money was Prism Bowling. Prism Bowling, bro.
They
to the moon. It's better than Doge. To the moon.
Absolutely blew it.
They screwed it up. Messed the whole thing up. They missed it. Completely whiffed.
What's funny is my brother and I used to bowl on military bases as kids, and we used to watch those. And you probably saw it in the 90s, like bowling tournaments were a thing on like ESPN, the Ocho, where you could watch, Walter Ray Williams, Pete Weber.
You know what's funny though? You can still see it on you. They actually have started doing it on YouTube.
Oh,
the
really?
PBA and all that. And actually the production value, you want to talk about production values? Not bad for YouTube. They do a pretty good job, actually. I was pretty impressed. And they got their crowd there and people are cheering and everything. It's like they've learned to play up to a TV style product, but it's available. You can actually watch highlights of some of the matches on YouTube, but they'll show the whole thing where they'll bowl the whole game.
Brian Voss, that brings back memories. Brian Voss, really good bowler. And you're right, it is like David Hasselhoff's twin. Yeah, he was like too good looking to be on the bowling circuit. No offense, bowlers, but it was just like, what's wrong with this picture?
I bowled in a league. I bowled in a league in my teens. I enjoyed it. Bowling is fun.
Yeah, that'll be. I'll retire into a bowling league. I will be doing that. That'll be my thing on Wednesday nights or whatever. I almost miss the cigarette smoke in there. Now you can't smoke anywhere, obviously, but yeah, it's like bowling it's a national pastime, and you know what? We're bringing it back. Get in early, guys. Get in early on the bowling cards.
I told you, if they do the Prism bowling, then Pete Weber will have a PMG, or sorry, not Prism. You'll have the various variants. You'll have the Tiger Stripe, Pete Weber. Think about it. Think about it. I'm telling you, like this was easy money they just threw away. It's ridiculous.
The bowling personalities are hilarious, though. Seriously, like if they play that up, I mean, there is entertainment there.
Here's the thing: if you want to go with personalities and the way a presentation on an otherwise game that makes no sense whatsoever, go internationally and go darts. Get Prism darts. They've got entrance music, and if you ever watch the coverage, my family and I would, because we get DAZN, it's DAZN, and it would do the streaming, because that's how we get the NFL. That's our equivalent NFL Sunday Ticket thing in Canada. So we get DAZN. But they would do the darts thing on it. I'd put it on for the family, and you'd get the announcer screaming 180, but you'd have a pub full of 3/4 drunk people going, ah! They'd freak out. Like the crowd was into it. They had entrance music, and they had girls who would walk the guys to the stage.
Wow.
Like it was a whole production. They had nicknames, and they had the whole, like, I'm like, should I be watching this as like a professional sport? What is this?
I got to check that out.
It's funny.
That reminds me too, and you might have seen this, cornhole tournaments. Cornhole.
I've heard about this. Yes,
that's a thing too, and they get and it's funny. They get fired up, and yeah, it's fun. I like that we're getting all these kind of alternative sports. That's good.
Look, here's the thing: almost anything you can put on TV where you interject some personality, people think like, I'm being completely serious here. You can get almost anything over as entertainment if it's entertaining. That's the only thing. The reason why Twitch, the
intros.
Yeah. Settle down. Calm down. Just pull it back. We were going so well. Pull it back. But the thing is, think about why Twitch became popular. Why are esports a thing? You're watching somebody else play video games. Why? It's the commentary. It's the banter. It's the discussion. It's entertainment. If you understand that, the ones who are successful know that it's entertainment. They don't take it too serious. People have been able to, they can fill a pub full of 3/4 drunk people watching freaking darts and give it the bells and whistles and frills, and people are freaking out, and that crowd is into it, where you as a viewer are like, maybe I should be paying attention to this because these people are freaking out about it. And every time a guy gets 180, they flip out. They've got signs. That's how you know it worked. Like it's random, it's weird, but it works.
I'm not sure what you mean, hockey with this one. Why do people in the hobby need celebrities to validate their own interest in the hobby? Are you talking
Steve
about like
Aoki, DJ Ski?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe people that have cultural influence,
They need to be told it's cool. It's not
cool now. Yeah.
They need to be told it's cool. They need someone that they think is cool in another genre to come in and validate it. People like validation, but that was I left it out of the preamble at the beginning, but it's like, for a long time prior to the YouTube channel, I kind of operated in my own space quietly. I didn't really make waves. I didn't build a big collector base of folks that I dealt with. There were folks that I knew for a long time that I collected, and I would do things, but that's what I say. I never stopped, but I would just plod along doing my own thing. It was only when I started doing the YouTube thing. That's why I say, like, it makes me laugh when I went to that expo and somebody recognized my voice. I'm like, that's weird. It means somebody's listening, which is odd. You see the names on there, but it doesn't connect. But then you see them in person and they're there and they're like, hey, I watch your show. It's weird.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, I know it is odd being out in public and people recognize you from YouTube. That still does feel kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, that card show in particular, the one that I'm talking about, I have been going to since the mid 90s.
Wow.
I've gone to it for 26 years.
That's great.
In pure anonymity. For all of it until the last one. where people recognize my voice or they saw me and they say, hey, and we chatted for a little bit. I have never so much as picked up anybody's radar. I talked to the people that I know, that was it. But this time around, I talked to a bunch of other people just because they knew, or I had met through them through the whole YouTube or social media or whatever.
Yeah.
It's different.
No, it is. Collecting Nintendo or Atari cards? No, just the games. I'm collecting the old Nintendo, the original Nintendo games. I collect them graded. I actually got my first sealed game.
Hold on. Justin, let's get to the pumping. Let's go.
Should I go?
Wada everything. Let's go.
Hold on. Let me grab it. Stay here. Don't move.
This is important. This is the part of the show where Dustin finally goes into his final form of pumping. He's got to pump this video game thing. Sealed video games.
Bowling cards, and John Elway's football. Elway's football, original NES.
You didn't even go for the Tecmo Bowl? Come on, man.
A+ seal. You see the A+ seal?
Which means it's like cracked in the bottom?
No, to be honest, this is the only sealed game I can afford. Tecmo Bowl? No. It's not even. Sealed Tecmo Bowl is like, I'd have to take out. Does that sound crazy? I'd have to take out like a second mortgage to get a sealed Tecmo Bowl.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Crazy. So I just had to settle for John Elway's quarterback.
Well, Dustin, look, we can talk after, but look, if we can get in on this sweet Fanatics money, like if we can get in on this sweet, like I said, like I will sell it so hard. They don't even know how fast I'll sell it.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we're always open to a hostile takeover by Fanatics.
It won't be hostile at all. It'll be like, no, let's talk, bros. Let's talk.
Well, no, that would be kind of funny to see if there is some sort of like content, consolidation of some kind. I don't know if there's enough money in it, frankly, for anyone to buy. I'm thinking like, what would that buyout offer look like?
And for content, it would be pretty low, only because like it isn't a very good revenue stream. Like, jokes aside. I gave you that example about the gap between the super chats thing and all that. Like basically Neo is pretty much the whale of all of us. He's pretty much it. He's got 5,000 different versions of making money.
Oh yeah. The MySlab sponsorship. I missed on that one. I don't use MySlabs. So unfortunately we do have limited companies in this space. I actually thought about what about like what is Pat NES? Pat
the NES Punk?
Yep. Punk? They have Manscaped. Why wouldn't we just
did you want a Manscaped sponsorship?
Maybe.
Did you want to talk about the lawnmower?
It kind of moves. It kind of works with
the personal finance code, yeah, to get a discount on the lawnmower, yeah.
Oh, I could tie in the goofy intros with the Manscaped.
Oh, yes, you could.
Man, it's like a perfect fit. Manscaped, if you're watching.
Yeah, square peg round hole, perfect fit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My audience is perfect for that.
Easily.
Yeah, I guess we're on they have, well, you know what it's going to be? It's going to be Fanatics TV, and we're all just a part of it.
That was basically what Jeremy did with Collectible.
Yeah, but he's still got kind of his own show, and
but that's what I mean. So it's kind of a hosting deal. It's kind of like I'll go on your channel and host it, and then I'll do hosting this, that, and the other thing. It's going to be very tricky. Look, the only way I think you could probably make like the full bag. The only way you can make the full bag is basically to become state sponsored TV Pravda. So our hope is that Collectors decides to go the final obvious stage. Is like, so the important thing y'all need to remember is SGC is trash, HGA is trash, BGS uber trash, CSG please PSA.
There it is. I just hope that PSA just wants to own everything, even if it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't.
Especially if it doesn't make sense. That's the only way this will work.
PFD channel, buy it. Because I'm Carlos, buy it. Just buying everything.
This is what I'm going for. I'm hoping that Nat is just like, let's just buy all this crap.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought AFA VGA was first in on. So they were first in on video game grading. They were around 12 years ago, I think. Highly niche back then, and then kind of grew in popularity. But even 5 years ago, VGA wasn't grading a lot of games. And then, from my understanding, 3 years ago, that's when WADA came about. VGA is still in that game though, and actually they were just bought by a bigger company, and I can't remember who it was, but a big company just bought VGA, AFA.
Yeah. They did. It is part of a merger thing. Yeah, for sure.
So they will have more resources because I think that there just wasn't as much energy put into that side. But AFA is big. I mean, the action figure grading. They're legitimate and they have a great reputation.
Yeah.
It's just that video game grading in general is a new thing. It's not something that's, relatively speaking. The thing that's interesting to me about video game grading is I kind of wonder if it's similar. Some of the attitude towards it is similar to what sports cards was towards grading 20 years ago.
See, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, Dustin. I'm happy to do so on your other channel, but can I give just
retro game dad on YouTube.
exactly.
Right,
but let me give quickly my synopsis hot take on this, because I don't get to do it on my channel because I focus predominantly on the sports card angle. But I did watch the video and the subsequent video related to the WADA thing, and I want to just lay out my general thesis on this. Here's what I think. It's two parts. Part number one, I think WADA is guilty about like 98% of what Carl Jobs talked about. I do think they were able to create a market niche based on false pretenses. I think there's a lot of BS that was involved in that. I think Jim Halpern did some of it. I think that Dennis, the name escapes me, the other one, the one who did WADA, I think he was responsible for it quite a bit as well. I think there's a lot of false pretenses there. However, with that said, so I want to make qualifier. Number one, I believe that their position in the market was based on false pretenses. I don't think it's legitimate. I don't think I had any business being in that position this early in the game. However, with that said, collectors bought them. Our new potential overlords, if the check clears, Nat. If the check clears. But our new potential overlords, notwithstanding, they bought them. So here's the good news. It won't matter. They could be guilty of 100% of everything. They could actually be completely liable. I don't think anyone actually has the guts to take him to court. I don't think they're going to see so much as a fine. Jim Halpern, if he does get a fine, it'll be a slap on the wrist at best. I don't think it'll matter. I think people will forget. And I think, in addition to that, I think they'll move on as if nothing happened. And if there's any real heat, they'll boot Dennis out and say, that was their era. We're collectors now. We've got a population report. We're legit. The mob is gone. We've now Las Vegas is clean. Family-friendly fun. Let's move on.
Fair enough. Yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah. And I guess, will it go anywhere? I think that's kind of your main point is will it just be a video that just goes away? Like, it's just kind of
I think the video was a great piece of journalism. I do. Like I said, that's why I made a qualifier. I believe that the information that he pulled out, I believe there's a lot of validity to it. My belief. This is strictly my belief. I believe there's a lot of validity to it. I think there was some shadiness done. I think if we actually cared enough, I think they're guilty. They'd be dead to rights. However, PSA's first card, the first card that ever came out, the T206 Honus Magner, the PSA 8, it's trimmed and no one cares.
Yeah.
It's been 30 years. No one cares. I know this hobby too much. So I can say two things. I believe they're 100% guilty. But I believe if enough heat comes on them, you just get rid of the founder and get him to go away. And then you say, like, nope, this was not under our watch. We did not do this. We are collectors. I'm not Turner. We're clean. Leave us alone. Let us now continue to be the number one in the space. Good day, sir.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, hey, fair enough. You heard it here first.
That's just my take. I believe two things. I believe they are guilty, but I also believe nothing will come of it. But I'm happy that Carl Jobs did it, because those of us who at least are aware understand what you're getting into. Act accordingly. Take a cautious approach. That would be my take.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that and there's different kind of segments of it too, where there's people that are grading brand new games, Nintendo Switch games, and then they're trying to resell. And then there's kind of the vintage video games, which I think is funny. Vintage is what I grew up with, and what you grew up with is Atari and Nintendo stuff. That's the vintage video game, or the retro video game market. So yeah, I'm just kind of buying the stuff that I think is cool. And also the price points are just not even close to what, like these sealed games that are selling for $1 million.
So I know you're very lenient, Dustin, but AF literally has been spamming your chat. You might want to just, like, you're way too nice on it. Like, enough.
All right. We're going to go to timeout because I'm going to be nice.
Sure. Okay. That's fair enough.
Yeah. Just a timeout as kind of honestly, he's been talking about Jacksonville Jaguars wide receivers for 6 months. So, it's like,
it just starts clogging up the chat. It gets a little bit tricky with enough junk in there. It's
yeah, I hear you, man. But yeah, I don't know. The random player names and stuff, we don't need it. All right. But appreciate it. All right. Unless AF equals Brad. Yeah, AF, that's another part that makes this kind of awkward is AF is Brad. So that's where I have to kind of
Well,
try.
that's where you double block just to
Yeah.
make sure the first block goes through.
Oh, Chris said that he's most regular blocked. Oh, okay. I didn't even realize that. All right. I was talking, not paying attention. So thank you all for letting me know.
No, that's the only reason I interrupted you. It's just that like I'm scanning it. As a host, it gets annoying to me because it's like I can't block him. I don't have the power.
I had one. Who was it? Mike, baseball collector. At the end of the live stream, I had literally. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but someone came in with like a bot spammer thing, and it was literally like you try to take it off, and there's another one. It was like endless. Yeah. Like it was.
Well,
like
I do live streams at the wee hours of the morning, Dustin. So yes, I've dealt with the bots before. Yeah,
and I actually just had to like shut it off. I was like, I just can't get rid of this, so I don't know what to do.
I just blocked the variety of them because you can only make so many counts at a time.
So the sealed Elway was $400. Some might say that's too much. Some might say that's too little. Time will tell. But honestly, again, it's one of those things where it's like I played that game. I think it's fun. It was my first sealed game. It's all about kind of that downside risk thing to where, like, if it becomes $100, it's not the end of the world for me.
I know that, like I said, I'm happy to have this discussion on your other channel, but just short version though. One thing that I think is important though, is that you made the point about the different variants and stuff. But one thing that was always, and this is just my experience from game swaps. This is going back 2014, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. I went to game swaps. Most collectors did not care about sealed. It's not that no one cares about sealed. That's not true. And it's not that there wasn't a premium for sealed. That's not true. It's that it would be a very niche, specific group of people that cared about it. Even the fans of the game would want a copy of the game, but they would also want a copy of the game they could play. So they'd look for the cart or they'd look for CIB because then you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get a little bit of both. Or additionally, now you can do ROMs, you can do a variety of other things. That's always going to hurt the demand. That's why I said demand is nebulous. It's a very tricky thing to figure out because even if you love the game, you are the hardcore of hardcores. Do you need a sealed copy per se? Not necessarily. Do you need one of the variants of a sealed copy if there's multiple variants? If there's 7 versions, different scarcities, you're a collector, even you like sealed. Like I'm putting you all the way into the narrow scope here. Do you need the rarest version? Do you need all 7 versions? Do you need any of them?
Yeah.
It could be just one. You pick one of the versions you like, the one that's in front of you that you're happy with, and you're done. Now you're out of the market. The next time one goes up for sale, you're not interested.
Yeah, and for me, I think, if the price point for sealed was lower, then I'd probably be more. I might be more into sealed, but where the price points are, it's like
that's where it was.
I'm fine with CIB.
Like, the only reason I'm saying is that in those game swaps, it was basically a card show for games, and we got to see the market in effect. And yes, prices were creeping up, but it was slow. It was methodical. Yes, sealed had a premium, but it was small because the people that wanted it were kind of niche. They were very specific. So it's hard for me to believe that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these people must have the sealed copy and they're not happy with the CIB. These other versions are not acceptable to them. It's a little weird. Right. That's all I'm saying.
One thing that's kind of interesting from a collector standpoint, a game collector standpoint, compared to someone that's coming in that's, maybe a semi-investor or whatever, is you'll have collectors that will say, like, I don't understand why they would buy this Mario Brothers game. It's not a rare game. Whereas they would pick out, it's kind of like that demand thing when we talk about, like, they're like, oh, well, this kind of random game, let's just, make up a game. They're like, but that's a rare game. So why wouldn't you want that rare game? And this is where game collector, like me coming in, I have no idea about these kind of, these niche rare games. But then it's kind of like with sports cards too, where it's like, but do people care about it? Do people care about this rare thing? Because there's a lot of instances where it's rare, but nobody cares. And you had talked about that on the demand side.
That's the only reason why I say that the demand thing is so hard to figure out. Anytime we do a calculation, we can talk about supply until the cows come home. When Josh Luber did in his little interview, he said he's kicking around the idea of maybe, if it's possible, giving people the print runs of some of the products. If hypothetically, he put it out as a hypothetical. I'll give you a little spoiler. What do you think would happen? By the way, if I give you the print run, so is the print run high? Is the print run low? Is it on par? How are you going to know if you don't know the demand?
Right.
But how are you going to know the demand if we're just guessing? So is card show attendance your indicator? Is sales on eBay your indicator? Is the sales in Card Ladder your indicator? Sales in Market Movers? I don't care which tool you use. That's up to you. But my point is like, so how do you measure demand?
Well, and look what happened when WADA came out with their population report. And for those just watching, WADA is a gaming is the gaming grader that we were talking about. But there was half the people were like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many of these," and then the other half were like, "Oh my God, there's like none. You know, the population is so low."
But there's no basis on figuring out whether it's low or high.
There is none. Yeah,
That's the problem. Is that there could be 5 in the entire universe, but if only 3 people want them, that's high.
And how many are graded? How many are not graded?
Correct.
How many will never be graded? How many haven't been found yet?
And if they already have it in their collection and it's sealed and it's pristine and it's not in a WADA holder, but they're happy, they're out. They don't care. It doesn't matter how much it sells for. It doesn't matter how many go up for sale. I already have my copy. It's sealed. I know it's pristine. I've been keeping it in this holder for the longest time. I'm happy with it. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, there's so many just variant. There's so much nuance to all of it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of collectors who are, I'm only saying, like I said, I'm only speaking from my personal experience live. I knew some very great collectors that put together amazing collections, great complete runs of some of NES, complete runs with everything. And it sits there to this day. They're not saying anything. They're not sending it to WADA. They don't care.
Yeah.
And it sits there in the collection until someday it doesn't. And then it can come on the market if you really want to see what happens. Some of them, by the way, have sealed cases of some of that sealed stuff. Sealed cases.
Yeah.
And they're just sitting on it.
You know, when you go to sports card shows, just kind of like on the same line of discussion, I was talking to dealers that, you know, when we think about data tools, we think about eBay sales, eBay sold listings. That's kind of like where we see, you know, comps.
Sure.
There's plenty of people, and you know this too, just going to shows, there's dealers that have all sorts of stuff that don't sell online at all.
Mm-hmm.
They don't sell online at all. They come out once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. They set up at a card show, and that's it. And I mean, like, it's wild when you really kind of dig into a lot of that stuff. And that's why we say, you know, with data tools, you know, of course, you're taking it with a grain of salt. It's not the full market. It's just a piece. It's a piece of the market.
Yeah. But that's why I say it's easier to try to figure out supply if you really have your heart set on it. You can at least take a stab at supply. Demand is the nebulous thing, but that's why when I did that video, my main point wasn't that you can't figure out demand. Is that even if somehow you hit on the perfect figure, you figured it out, you're one sale away from being wrong again. Because as soon as somebody gets the one they want, now they're out of the market forever. They don't care. They're done. They leave. Now demand has shrunk by 1. The supply has shrunk by 1, but somebody else got priced out. So 5 people left and the supply went down by only 1. So it completely messed your entire math and you have to restart again from scratch.
Well, it's like kind of when you saw the Jordan rookie cards that sold for 775,000 or whatever. And then all of a sudden the people that had those 10s are like, oh, well, hell, I want to sell mine. And then of course you have more come into there's more supply there. The price goes down. And I remember, Ken Golden talking about like, spacing them out because
at one point he had like 40.
Yeah. He's like, I just had so many that it was just like, you're not going to sell for $800,000 when we have so many of them that are up for sale.
But I want you to think about that though. He did give him credit for being transparent.
Right.
If he had put them all out of the market when the seller told him to, that would have tanked that market really fast.
Yeah.
Because there would have been a flood of supply and not enough buyers to eat it up. So he artificially extended it to allow the buyers to absorb the supply and stick in the market. And even still, the price is where it is. Think about that.
Yeah.
He did about as good a job as you could do to extend it. Because if he had done it at the time they initially said, put it up for auction, there would have been 40 on the market simultaneously and the price should have been lower. So he artificially boosted the price and he admitted to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and this is actually a good point. John says it is not a rare card. It's not. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, and that's where I would love to own one. It's not going to be a 10, obviously, but I'm happy just waiting until there's, I don't think everything's going to just sit at a high forever. I do think there will be dips just like with everything else. In the US, there's all sorts of talk of, inflation and recession and all sorts of things that of course people talk about, but we've had low interest rates forever here. I mean, at some point there has to be some sort of a give on.
Oh, he's getting into economics.
Uh-oh.
He's entering into the realm. But here's a funny thing. I agree with you. But here's a little twist on that. If you get enough inflation over enough time, so is the price actually going to drop, or is the real value going to drop? Because in the 1950s, your annual salary would make you rich. Today,
Yeah.
it makes you average. So is it that the price dropped for you? Or is it that you make more money at work now because of inflation? It's not
Yeah.
the same thing. Your car cost $5,000 in the 1970s. Today it costs $50,000. But you don't make 10 times as much money.
Right. Yeah.
So is the car worth 10 times as much? No, actually, it's worth probably equivalent or thereabouts. So you got to do the inflation calculation. So if the Jordan, yeah, it does its waves, but then you wake up in 20 years and the average Jordan is $350,000. It's like, why didn't the price go down? Well, it actually did. 350,000 in 20 years is less money than 200,000 today.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're waiting for the price to drop, you might be waiting until the end of time.
Yeah, it's just, what is a dollar worth? You know, that's the dollar and the British pound. It's like, it's all been going down.
It's all relative. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I say, like, there certainly will be opportunities. I don't think the Jordan, because if the price drops to a certain point, the people that have them will just stop selling them and the price will stall.
Right.
The comps will stall at whatever price point they refuse to go below.
Yeah, they're not going to sell off at 50 grand or whatever.
You're not going to go back to where you were pre-pandemic now. It's too late. Yeah. So I'm sorry. If that was your plan, that's a no.
Another reason, guys, why we focus on the next run-up, bowling cards.
Wait until
for those that are just joining.
Wait until Prison Bowling happens, buddy. Wait until it happens. It's coming.
Prison Bowling is going to be insane. If you think F1 is big, oh man. All right, dude, we're pushing 2 hours, which for me may as well be 8 hours because I usually do a 1 hour live.
So. Oh, I know. I was very impressed. You've hung in there. This is like a good preamble for me.
Yeah, this is
so are you ready to start the show now? Are we done the pre-show? Are we done?
Yeah. This is breaking all sorts of records for my channel. This is a warm-up appetizer for Carlos.
These are facts.
All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks very much for joining us tonight. I'll have Carlos back on. You know what I'll do is I'll pick what we'll do is we'll just, when there's some wacky stuff going hobby-wise going on, we'll just get back together and talk about it. I think that would be kind of fun.
Oh, so now you're waiting for Fanatics to do something interesting. That could be fun.
Oh yeah. There's always some stuff, but we'll definitely have Carlos back on if he wants to come back on. Horse racing cards, guys, focus on bowling and then we'll focus on all the other things later. It's bowling right now. Horse racing, come on.
There's always an opportunity. There's always something.
Crazy Kev. I could see bowling cards being a thing. And disclosure, this is a joke. Don't go buy bowling cards unless you love bowling.
That's a pick.
Yeah, I'm selling picks. Oh my God. All right.
You completely avoided the SCI pick selling scandal.
Oh, we didn't talk about that.
Okay, you want to do it for like 5 minutes? I can go real quick and summarize it really fast.
Throw it in there because actually I don't even know really.
I'll give you the short version. So basically an Instagram channel came up that was basically sports card investor fraud. That's basically what they called themselves. They were short-lived. It didn't last long.
Oh, I did. Okay, so I heard about this.
Yeah. So bottom line was that they were complaining about SCI taking picks. I actually took some time at the beginning of my live stream to talk about it. And the reason why I took some time is because I said, even if I take their intentions to be pure, let's say for the sake of argument, it's pure, they went about it the wrong way because they decided to pick on Jeff Wilson is a terrible picker. I agree with that. I did a video about it. I made fun of him for it, but he can't cry to me about his lawyers because all I did was stick to the facts. I showed his video, exactly what he said, didn't add anything, didn't take away anything, and then showed a subsequent video where he 180 degrees contradicted himself within 7 days. Okay. So I had some fun with it. I poked some fun at him. It was kind of lighthearted. But the point is, he contradicted himself 180 degrees. And my point of that wasn't to pick on Jeff. My point was that his audience isn't fully experienced. They'll just listen to whatever he says, and they don't question. But some folks in the comments did kind of question. It's like, didn't you say this last week about the exact same card in the exact same grade and contradict yourself? So anyway, he started adding up his picks and he started trying to figure out if he made money or not. And my point was, even if he's the worst card picker in the world, there's one thing missing that means that you're going to have a really tough time really arguing this properly. And that is one thing. If you make picks, you need a time horizon. The reason why is that if you take that Jordan rookie, he bought two of them. He bought one at about $200,000. He bought one at $500,000. The $500,000 one, he'd have lost money. The $200,000 one, he'd have made money. But if he waits a year and the card goes up, maybe Gary Vee comes back with a vengeance. He says, Jordan rookie to the moon. It goes up to $1 million. Now he's making money on both. So question, is it a good pick, a bad pick, or a good pick again? It depends on the time horizon. It depends on when you bought it and when you sold it. Yeah. So that's why I say picks are problematic because it depends. If I say to you, buy card X, try to get it at this price, and then within the next 6 months, we think the peak will be there, try to make sure you sell it off within that. If it's 6 months and a day and you would have lost money, I don't care. I said within 6 months. If it's within 6 months and you would have lost money, then I'm wrong. You can say I made a bad pick. But if I'm giving you a time horizon, well, then we can wait until the end of time. Yeah. If eventually I'm right, well, then I can claim victory. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. And nobody really does. I mean, well, unless I'm wrong, I haven't heard people make picks with time horizons.
But because they shouldn't. It's very easy way. It's a very easy way for them to avoid culpability because you can say like, well, you didn't hold it for long enough.
Right. Yeah. I meant long-term. What does long-term mean? Long-term is forever. You should have held it for 800 years.
That is the reason why I would never treat card advice any different than I would treat stock advice, regular investment advice. Like there's so many variables.
By the way, guys, if you think that card channels are, bad for this sort of thing, go check out crypto channels. If you think that it's bad, check out crypto channels.
But that's what I mean.
It's like this token will 10x by the end of the year. This will, it's wild. That's real Wild West stuff. That's where, when people talk about regulation in crypto, it's pretty obvious that it's going to come just based on the information that's out there. It's great to be bullish on something, but it just doesn't make any sort of sense. And there's not any, rhyme or reason to any of it. And a lot of it's people's opinions. There's a lot of good channels, but then there's just stuff that's just strictly propaganda. It's just like, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just like,
yeah. Most pick channels are a guess at best, or they're trying to motivate you to buy up a certain thing that they already have holdings in. That's where the pump and dump accusation comes in. The problem is it only works if you can prove that they had copies of X card, whatever it is, prior to mentioning it. It shows a spike and then they sell it off. That's almost impossible to prove. Like it's very difficult to prove properly. And that's where Jeff Wilson being a lightning rod comes into play, where they'll look at him first. It's like, guys, there are 5,000 channels to do that. He's the biggest voice because he's got the biggest amount of subscribers. So he's the easiest target. By the way, I think he's a terrible picker in terms of cards. I think he actually is. He's always he always picks when something is on the upswing already. So it's like by the time he says it, it's like you should have already bought and potentially sold. So his timing is always off.
Yeah, but is it like but the way that it's positioned to me, I feel like it's more now of like cards are moving up, cards are moving down.
He did a show though where he did buy and sell.
Okay.
He did one where he explicitly said, I think this is a buy and I think this is a sell. And that's where you get in trouble. If you report the news, it's different. Okay. You can say X is up 50% in the last week. And that's just a fact. That's based on the numbers. Here it is. If you're presenting news, you can cry about it, but it's like, no, you disagree with me. Go look up the comps. You can actually validate that. Right. But if you say, I believe based on this, it's a buy, I have now made a recommendation. That's something different.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying there is a difference between the two. When he's doing the top five, whatever, it's different.
Yeah, I've seen people say, because I think people get mixed up there to where they talk about top five as if it's like top five picks. And and I just don't view it like that. But yeah.
But that's why you have me in my overly long videos where I take that extra couple of minutes and be like, no, there's a difference. There's two different kinds of videos. He does them both. That's why he gets in trouble. It'd be like, dude, stick to the news and you'll be fine. Stick to the news. People still complain, but at least you can go like, it's just the news. Leave me alone.
Right. Fair enough. Just read the chart and graph. Easy game. LOL.
Yeah. No, Neo does this very well. He doesn't tell you to buy a damn thing. He reads the damn graph and is like, you're fine. Read the news and you'll be fine.
He tells me to buy stuff, but it's in DMs. So
you should sue him.
Yeah. I hope these work out, man. I hope these work out. No.
So you're saying Sam Donald's no good now?
Yeah. Neo has had me put so much money into Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold.
And Baker Mayfield?
We're in rough shape. Actually, now to be fair, I bought Baker Mayfield on my own accord.
So
Yeah.
you don't blame him for that one.
No, I don't. I don't. Actually, I like Baker Mayfield. I know that it's like with Baker Mayfield, it's like the roller coaster ride, and it's like it's just always up and down. But to be totally like fair, I just try to buy during these like tough times. Haven't bought this year because modern football just doesn't interest me at this point. But I still think that 10 years from now, Baker Mayfield is still going to be decent. That might come back to haunt me with some of my own cards, but
I like the hashtag.
Yeah, too soon.
It's never too soon.
Look,
Look, I'm a life troll. What do you want from me? This is what I do.
All right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and cap it there. I think that's a good note to end on.
Mm-hmm.
We're bowling cards, John Elway's quarterback, and pump and dump schemes from Carlos.
Love it.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We'll definitely have Carlos back on. Check out his channel at Because I'm Carlos YouTube channel. And then the IG is right there at Because I'm Carlos. Any other places to come find you?
No, I think that's the best spot. You do the IG, it leads you to the YouTube channel, and you're good. You're funneled in.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you.